We're now on the record in case number 052023 CA018437. Today's date is November 17th, 2023. The time is 9:28 a.m. This is the video recorded deposition of Matt Susin being taken at 14 Century Place, Melbourne, Florida. I'm the videographer. My name is Seth Headley. The court reporter is Yvette Harrison from Hughesby Report. Will the attorneys please identify themselves and the parties they represent, beginning with the party noticing this proceeding.
Attorney Jessica Travis for plaintiff Jennifer Jenkins, who also appears in person.
Randy Mora on behalf of defendants Matthew Susin and School Board of Brevard County. With Mr. Paul Gibbs present as board attorney.
Madam Court Reporter, if you could please administer the oath.
Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
All right. Could you tell us your name?
Matthew Susin.
Okay. Have you ever done a deposition before?
Maybe for a divorce.
Okay. Just to kind of give you a little bit of instruction, I ask a question. If you don't understand it, just ask me to rephrase. If you say or or I will ask you if that's a yes or a no, just so it's clear on the record, not to be rude, even if I can tell from looking at you. If your attorney objects, for the most part, the answer is still put in the record, unless we're asking about something confidentiality, and he'll pipe in if that happens. So that's why when there's an objection, I'll just kind of look at you and you go ahead and give the answer, okay? If you're not sure about something, I want you to say you're not sure, and I want you to guess or try to give me what you think the answer should be, okay? Is that a yes?
Yes.
Say, okay. All right. So is it Susan or Susin?
Susan.
Susan, okay. Mr. Susan, how are you employed?
Two different ways. I have a personal insurance business in Brevard Public Schools.
Okay. And what's your capacity with the Brevard Public Schools?
Can you please explain?
What is your employment with the Brevard
School
Public
board
Schools?
member.
Okay. You're a school
Okay, what?
School board member.
Okay, and that's the other thing. I'm bad about talking over people, and so if we do that, the court reporter, she's the boss. She'll tell us to slow down. Okay. What is the name of your insurance company?
Not Susan Insurance.
How long have you had that employment?
I don't remember when it officially started. More than 2 or 3 years.
Has it always been in Brevard County? Is that a yes?
Yes.
Okay. How long have you lived in Brevard County?
Since 2003, 2004.
Okay.
I can't remember what.
You can't remember what?
When it was.
When it was, okay. Okay. How long have you been on the school board?
7 years.
What year were you elected?
2016.
Are you up for re-election anytime soon?
Yes.
When are you up for re-election?
2024.
Okay. All right. So I ask these questions of everyone. This is nothing personal against you. Do you believe that you're thinking clearly today?
Yes.
Yes? Okay. Are you under the influence of any drugs or alcohol that would impair your ability to think today?
No.
Have you ever been convicted of a felony?
That I don't know.
Okay. Have you ever been convicted of a crime of dishonesty, whether it be a misdemeanor or a felony, and that includes theft, fraud, bad checks, anything of that nature?
Not a felony to those degrees, no.
Okay. A misdemeanor or felony, have you been convicted of bad checks, fraudulent checks, or worthless checks?
I'm not sure about that.
Why are you not sure?
Because there were some court cases that came across. I'm not sure if they developed into convictions or not.
What kind of court cases?
I think they were checks.
Bad checks?
I'm assuming yes.
Okay. Well, did they involve you? Is that a yes?
Yes.
Okay. And you don't know if it was about bad checks?
It's about a bad check. I just don't know if it led to conviction.
Okay. Where did that occur?
Tallahassee.
How long ago?
Would have been between 1995 and 2003 is when I was up there.
Okay. So
I'm not sure.
you were a defendant in a case located in Tallahassee where the allegation against you was bad or fraudulent checks?
I don't have that in front of me, so I'm sorry. I don't know.
Did you go to court?
I can't remember if I was in court for that.
Okay. Did you hire an attorney?
No, I never had an attorney for anything.
So were you charged with bad or fraudulent
I think there
checks?
was an original case that said that, but I don't know what the outcome was.
Okay, so you were a defendant in which it was alleged against you that you had committed the crime of bad or fraudulent checks, and you don't recall anything about it? Is that what you're telling me?
I don't recall the deposition of it, or whatever the outcome was. No.
Okay, and you don't recall going to court?
No, I don't. I do
Okay.
not.
You don't recall having an attorney?
No, I don't. If we had an attorney, it was a public defender.
Okay. Why do you say we? Who else
Me,
was involved in that?
nobody else.
Okay. Did you meet with a public defender? Because they're attorneys.
You're asking me questions of something that is so long ago that I can't remember the specific details to it.
Okay. So do you have trouble remembering things?
I would say anything that regards long time and everything else, I would not remember that. So
Okay. How old are you?
48.
Okay. You have any dementia or diagnosed with any memory issues?
No.
Okay. How old were you in 1995? Well, actually, you gave me a range. 1995 to 2003 is when you thought these checks occurred. How old were you in 95?
20.
How old were you in 2003?
What's that? 28, 29? Yeah, 28.
Okay. Are we talking about 1, 2, 3 cases? How many cases are we talking about?
I have no idea the amount or disposition of those or anything.
How many checks are we talking about?
I don't know.
Between the age of 28 and now, have you had any head injuries?
Multiple.
Tell me about those.
Rugby.
Okay. Any concussions?
Yep.
Anything that caused you to lose your memory?
Old age, concussions, heart issues. Yeah.
Okay, so as you sit here today, some things have affected your memory that include concussions, old age, and injuries. Yes?
Sure. Yes.
Okay. And for that reason, you cannot recall the details of these cases that occurred in 95 and 2003.
I wouldn't say it's,
Form, you can answer.
yeah, I'm not sure if it's because of those. I'm not a doctor. I'm not any of those, but I just don't recall the facts of what you're asking me.
Hasn't this issue come up previously, recently, as you campaigned? The fact that you had these prior check convictions on your record?
At no time during the campaign did checks come up in my campaign.
Okay. Has it come up at any time while you've been on the school board?
There was some conversation wrapped around it from one of the public comments,
Okay.
but I can't remember the specifics to it or when the date was.
Did you ever give anybody any records or anything pertaining to these cases when it came up recently?
No.
So somebody came to the public comment section of a school board meeting, made comments about how you have these prior cases, and you didn't get any records to defend yourself or set the record straight or anything like that.
People make a lot of accusations at the school board.
So you just ignored whoever came and made that public comment?
From what I remember, yes.
Okay. Do you recall what school board meeting that would have been at?
No.
So earlier I asked you if there was anything impairing your memory today, and you said no, but now it sounds like you might have some difficulty remembering things. Do you have memory issues?
Can you please explain what can you please explain?
Well, earlier I asked you if you had taken anything or had any difficulty with your memory. And
I
then
don't take any drugs currently.
Okay. Are you having trouble with your memory today?
Remembering things that I wasn't prepared for from years ago.
Okay.
Let's take it case by case.
What about the public records that we're here to talk about today? Do you have any memory issues or trouble remembering those items?
Form, you can answer.
You haven't asked questions, so I would not know what I'm supposed to know or not know or answer.
Okay. What did you do to prepare for today without telling me the contents of conversations with your lawyer? What did you do to prepare today?
Just literally came here.
Okay. Have you read, are you familiar with the complaint in this case, the third amended complaint?
I read through the complaint about a week ago.
Okay. Did you meet with your attorney?
Mhm.
Is that a yes?
Yes.
You can answer that you met with me. Don't get into any of the nature of our discussions.
Right. When did you meet with your attorney?
You can answer when we.
Yeah,
when we met.
I'm trying to. We met in what on a call? Trying to.
It's your testimony.
Yeah.
Specifics to when, I'm not sure, but we've met on this topic.
Okay, did you meet yesterday?
No.
Okay. Did you meet this morning?
Yes.
How many times do you think you've met with your attorney?
Form.
Can you give a date specific,
No.
subject specific?
Well, how many times do you think you've met with your lawyer?
Form.
Okay, since can you please clarify a date range for me to
No.
how many times?
Since this case has begun, how many times do you think you've met with your lawyer? That includes in-person, Zoom, calls, etc.
I wouldn't know the number to that.
How many times have you met with your lawyer in the last month?
I know we've met twice, but that may not be the only amount.
You can recall 2 times. Is that correct?
Mhm.
Yes.
Yes.
And one of those was this morning?
Yes.
When was the other time?
It was about a week ago, I think.
Was
2
it in
weeks ago.
person or by video?
It was by video.
So you indicated, I
Or
think
by
about,
phone. It wasn't by video. It was by phone. By phone.
okay. You indicated that you read the complaint or the third amendment complaint about a week ago.
Mhm.
Is that a yes?
Yes.
Okay. And are you familiar with the public records that are at requests that are at issue in this case?
I'm familiar with the ones that you've requested. There's a considerable amount of public records,
Are you familiar with the ones that are the subject of the complaint?
for the most part.
Okay. Did you read the public records requests that were attached to the third amendment complaint?
No.
Have you read any of the public records requests that were attached to prior versions of the complaint? Because we had a first complaint, a second complaint, and now a third complaint. At any time, have you ever looked at the public records requests that were
Can
attached?
you be specific to which ones you're talking about?
Have you, let me ask it this way. Other than a week ago, when you read the third amendment complaint, have you ever read any of the other complaints?
Which other complaints?
There was prior complaints, prior versions of the complaint.
Can you be more specific? I'm asking you to
Okay.
ask me which complaint.
There was an initial complaint.
Mhm. I read that.
Okay. You read that one. Did you read the public records that were attached? Records requests that were attached?
That I may or may not have read some of them, all of them.
Okay. Do you think you would recognize the public records requests if you saw them?
From the first complaint,
All right. Well, as you sit here today, how many phones do you have?
Form. You can answer.
can you be specific to phones?
Do you know what a phone is?
I do, but are you talking cell phones, personal
Yeah.
phones, district phones?
As you sit here today, how many phones do you use?
Form.
Any form of telephone?
Yes.
That number I can't give you.
How many phones, as you sit here today, have a number that is used by you?
Form.
2.
Yeah.
Depends.
As you sit here today, how many phones do you have on your person?
On my person?
Yeah,
Can you, so
like in your pockets.
I don't have any phones on my pockets on me or anything.
How many phones do you have in your car right now?
2.
Are those the only 2 that you use, or do you use other phones
Use
Phone.
multiple others.
as your source of communication, correct? Is that yes?
Yes.
How many others?
Form.
Unknown.
So let's say hypothetically I did a subpoena to all the cell phone carriers in the world. How many phones would I find registered under your name?
None.
How many phones would I find, are you married?
Yes.
How many phones would I find under your wife's name?
3.
Form. Just for clarity, Jessica, you keep using the term phones. Only one of those questions concerned mobile phones.
Yeah.
Explicitly, just trying to be clear.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I mean, mobile phones or landlines, or I don't know if they still have, GPS phones or whatever. Okay?
I'm assuming that they're with my wife.
Okay. So there's 3 phones in your wife's name?
That was consistent. I'm not sure if they've been put into my name or if they're in my name. I don't know.
Okay. Out of the 3 phones that may or may not be in your name, but may or may not be in your wife's name, how many of those 3 phones do you use on a regular basis for communication?
1.
Do you have a district issue phone as you sit here today?
Form, you can answer.
Yes.
Is that a cell phone?
Yes.
Is the phone that may or may not be in your name or may or may not be in your wife's name, but is the one that you use, is that a cell phone?
Yes.
What is that phone number?
321-917-4780.
What is the number of the district issued cell phone that you use?
I'm not sure what that number is. No.
It's your testimony.
I'm not sure. I couldn't give you that number.
Do you have any landlines that you use to communicate with at your home or in your office?
Can you be specific to office?
Well, anything that you might use to work out of. Do you know what an office is?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I'm just asking for a geographical location to try to give you a good answer.
I don't know where your office is located. Do you have an office?
I do have 2.
Okay. At either of your 2 offices, do you have a landline that you use? Is that a yes?
Yes.
What are those phone numbers?
I have no idea.
Whose name is on those accounts for those phones?
One office was Mark III. The other office, I'm not even sure who's on that one.
Who's Mark III?
It's a company that I did consulting with.
Okay, do you have an office for your insurance business?
That is one of the offices I did.
Okay,
with
the 2
insurance.
offices that you talked about, they're for what?
Insurance purposes.
Both of them are the insurance office?
Yes.
Do you have an office for the school board? I don't know if you guys have offices or not, honestly. Do you have an office?
The office is pretty much all of the schools in the school district. There's a place where they've set aside for us to be able to sit, but
Okay. What does Mark III Consulting do?
insurance benefits.
So the school board does have an office that they set aside for you?
There's a couple. There's desks that are inside of next to the superintendent. There's a desk that is inside of next to legal. There's another desk that's in that office. There's another desk that I had that was over by the mailroom. There was a desk that was inside the security. There's multiple places where we gather.
Are there any locations that are specifically assigned to you to allow you to work out of?
All of those at one point were or were not assigned to me.
Okay. Are they shared or are they for you exclusively?
No, they're shared. They were.
Do you have an office that is exclusively yours to do school board business out of?
No.
All right. So you have a district issued cell phone. You're not sure of the number.
I know the first 3 numbers.
Was it 321?
Possibly, yeah, and then 638, but the last 4 I'm not sure of. It always gets confused back.
Okay.
The first 2 and the second 2, I never get them right.
Whose name, if you know, is on the district issued cell
I
phone?
have no idea.
When did you get that phone?
Form, you can answer.
Sometime in 2016, I'm assuming. But when you're asking for the phone, can you clarify, because it's a different physical form?
Okay, when was the first time that the district ever gave you a phone? And you understand when I say phone that it means cell phone or landline or whatever?
No,
Correct.
you're asking me, when you ask me for district phone, you've asked me for locations, you've asked me for my cell phone, if you can just be more specific.
Do you know what a phone is?
Yes, I do.
Okay. A phone includes, if I ask you about whether or not you have a phone, do you understand that that includes cell phones?
Sure.
Do you understand that that includes landlines?
Mm-hmm.
Is that a yes?
Yes.
Okay. Earlier, you indicated that you had in your car a district-issued cell phone, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Is that the first district-issued phone that you've ever had, or have you had prior ones?
In 2016, I was issued a phone from the district. It was different than the one I have now. The same number, though.
Was it a cell phone?
Yes.
And it's different than the one you have now. Why?
Different model, I think.
So that you've had at least 2 district-issued cell phones, correct?
Explain that to me.
Well, you said that the district issued you a
Mm-hmm.
cell phone in 2016,
Same number.
and it's different than the model that you have now.
Mm.
Is that correct? You have to say yes or no.
Yes.
Okay. And so you've had at least 2 district-issued phones, correct?
With the same number.
With the same number, okay. Have you had more than 2?
I can't get that.
Okay. Why do you currently have a different model or the second district issued cell phone?
We've had upgrades. We've had issues with our cell phones, but I'm not sure if the issues meant to say a new phone. I can't remember if they rebooted it or what they did. I just know I've had different ones, that's all.
So to clarify, and you might have answered this, but I'm not sure. Have you had more than 2 district issued cell phones, whether or not they were the same number?
I've always had one district issued cell phone.
Yes.
I've had multiple different models
Okay.
based upon various things that I couldn't tell you why I got them or why not right now, but I have been issued different model cell phones.
How many different model cell phones do you think you've had?
I'm not going to assume.
You don't know? And that's a perfectly legitimate answer.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay. Have you ever obtained a different model cell phone from the district because your phone was broken?
Say that again.
Did you ever have a district issued cell phone that broke?
I've had them have problems and then I had to bring them in, yes. But broken, can you define broken? That's all.
Didn't work? Weren't fully functional?
Yeah. Yep. Yes.
When did you have a broken cell phone?
Over the years, there's been multiple times where a cell phone was misfunctioning and I brought it in.
Have you ever talked about having a broken cell phone during a board meeting?
I'm not sure.
I'm going to play you a video of a board meeting that might jog your memory. It's been marked as Defendant's Exhibit 7.
Defendants Exhibit
Oh,
7?
excuse me, Plaintiff.
Okay.
Yeah, Plaintiff's Exhibit 7.
I represent cities in
Yeah.
City all the time. I get it. I just want to make
telling all
clear.
those stories, and I was.
Sorry, did you say what the date of that was?
November 22nd of 22.
Good morning.
All right, I'm gonna show you a few seconds of the beginning to see if you recognize it, then I'll fast forward to the location that we're gonna watch. Can you see it from there?
Yep.
Okay.
November 22nd, 2022, organization of the board meeting is now in order. It is my privilege as a superintendent to chair this meeting until such time as a chairman is elected. I would like to take this opportunity.
Okay, do you recognize that to be a school board meeting on November
Absolutely.
22nd of 22?
Absolutely.
Okay, and is this you, wait, is this you right here, over here in the gray
That is,
blue jacket? Okay, all right, I am, for the record, I'm gonna fast forward. To 4 hours and 6 minutes approximately. And I'm gonna play a portion and then I'll stop it and ask you some questions.
Everything else. So there's that. The next thing is that there seems to be this whole conspiracy theory. My district cell phone, the times in the months that was in question was over the summer. My district cell phone was broken. I had to bring it back in to have the district cell phone worked on. Our own IT person that's inside of here fixed it and everything's fine. So yes, until I had my district phone used, then I used my personal cell and I provided all of those texts and all of that information off of there. There is no hiding conversations. So I just wanted to address it. This is a good time.
All right, is that you in that video?
Yes.
Okay, do you recall saying those words?
I don't recall, but it's obvious I did.
Okay, so would you agree that this is a fair and accurate representation of what you
Yes.
said during that meeting?
Yes.
Just let her finish, even
Okay.
if you know where it's going for clarity in the record.
Sorry.
All right. So tell me about how that phone was broken that you're referencing in that recording.
I don't know how it was broken.
What did you do about it being broken? Did you take it to IT like you mentioned there? Is it a yes? Okay, who did you take it to?
I'm not sure of the name of the lady.
It was a lady?
Yes.
What did she look like?
She has red hair.
How old do you think she was?
Between 45 and 55.
Okay.
She does our IT and she does our computer logins for the meeting, if I can be more descriptive of who she is.
And you don't know her name?
No, ma'am.
How long, I mean, in this statement, you reference that the phone was broken over the summer, I think is the quote. So, and this would have been over the summer of 22, I assume, since this was a November 22 meeting. Would you agree with that?
I'm assuming.
Okay, so was there a period of time where you only had your personal cell phone that was working for communications?
Form, you can answer.
Yeah, if one was broken and the other one wasn't, I would say.
So during the summer of 2022, when you had a broken phone, were you using your personal cell phone for official or district communications?
Can you define official communications?
Well, let me strike that word. During the summer of 2022, were you using your personal cell phone for communications related to the district or your position as a school board member?
Yes.
Were you using any other cell phone during the summer of 2022 for any communication?
Our district phone, possibly.
But didn't you just say that it was broken during the summer of 22?
May have been sometime during the summer, but I'm not sure of the definite time range of that.
How long were you without a district-issued cell phone?
Not sure.
Did they give you a new phone or fix your phone?
That I can't remember.
Are you aware that the district has provided phone records for your district issued cell phone?
Yes.
Have you seen the phone records that the district has provided?
Form.
I've seen them in the past, yes.
Alright. I'm gonna show you what's been marked as Plaintiff's Exhibit 8. Do you recognize that document that's in front of you, Plaintiff's Exhibit 8?
Take a moment to look at it if you need to.
You're asking me to recognize this as the document that I saw in the past?
And just
I
do you
thought the one in
recognize,
the past was one page. I don't remember it being multiple. So.
do you recognize any of the pages there?
There was a page that was provided. I don't remember the form of it, but this looks like it's being issued by, I don't even know if that's the number. The customer service number is not my number. It says subscriber detail. Okay.
Yeah.
This one is my number here.
Which one is that? What page are you looking at?
They're numbered in the bottom right corner.
Yeah, page 1, page 2, page 3, and that's it.
Those pertain to your district issued cell phone, those pages?
That is my number, yeah.
Okay. Are there 4 pages there?
There are.
Okay. Do you recognize the last page, to be fair?
I don't recognize this. It's not my number.
Okay, all right. Well, the first 3 pages that you do recognize.
I only recognize them as saying that is my number on there. I don't
Okay.
recognize. There was a document that was given to me, but to say that that's the document that I see here, I apologize. I cannot make that
Okay.
correlation, but this does have my number on it.
All right. And that number is what?
321-684-9735.
You recognize that number now that you see that?
That is. Yep.
Okay. Would you agree with me that document 8 indicates that, consistent with what you said during this meeting, that there was really no or little activity on your district issued cell phone in June, July, and August of 22?
I'm not going to lie to you. The print's so small I can't tell what it is.
Let me hand it to me. Let me see if I can point you in the right location.
Let me just look at it for a second here. Trying to see. It says I got an unlimited bill, partial charges, per unit phone, $24. I mean, I don't. What is it? Is this my phone? It has my number, yes. You're asking me, can you restate the question?
So I'm going to direct your attention. Do you see on pages 1, 2, and mostly on pages 1 and 2, there's down on the bottom left, there's messaging charges and web and data use charges. Do you see that there's really nothing listed there?
It says included data with 0 charges, 1,416 something gigabytes. Subtotal 2333. Total 2. It says messages 33. Subtotal 33. Total 0. I'm assuming that's because it's an unlimited plan.
Let me ask it this way. Would you agree that there is nothing indicating that you used your district issued cell phone?
It says messages 33, total charge 0. I don't know. I mean, you're asking me if I used it. By looking at this, I can't tell if I did or I didn't. It says total charges $20.93. Government terms taxes $8.
Let me ask it this way.
Partial charges.
Is it still your testimony today that your district-issued cell phone was not working and was broken in the summer of '22?
Sometime during the summer, that was a broken phone. Where? I'm not sure. You're asking me to look at this, and it's difficult to, because this one says 13 messages or 11 messages.
All right, you
This
can
one
hand that
says
to the court
33.
reporter. You can hand that to the court reporter. She keeps the exhibits there.
This.
Yeah, that.
Yeah.
Just put it right there, yeah. Okay. So, when did you get a new district-issued phone? Or get the one that you had repaired?
Sometime near the end of the summer. The date is not specific to when I know. I don't know when.
This meeting that we just listened to was in November of '22. So by that time, you had a personal cell phone and a district-issued cell phone? Is that yes?
Yes, I'm
Okay.
sorry.
And you don't recall who would have given you a new phone or repaired your prior phone?
Don't know her name, but I was able to identify who she is inside the district. It's very
Right.
easy to find out if you ask somebody that.
Since the end of the summer of 2022, have you used your district-issued cell phone?
Yes.
So if I requested those phone records similar to what we were looking at in Exhibit 8, it should show that there was some usage on your district-issued cell phone?
There's multiple uses for a cell phone. There's email, there's cell phone calls, there's cell phone texts. There was usage since November of '22.
Did you use it for calls, emails, and text messages, your
I'm
district-issued
sure I
phone?
did, but I don't have those records in front of me.
Is the district-issued cell phone your main method of communication? Or do,
Right.
or do you use one phone more than the other?
In regards to what?
Anything.
I don't have a comparison between if I use that phone over another phone. Are you asking me over my personal phone?
Yeah, which phone do you
In
use the
regard-
most?
In what? Oh, I use my personal phone because there's personal calls on it that far exceed this.
Okay. Do you use your personal phone for calls related to district business?
I would say that, yeah, I mean, there's probably calls on there that may be on there for that. I'm not sure.
Do you
I don't
use-
have them in front of me. I don't.
Okay. But as you sit here today, you use your personal, what you recall is that you do use your personal cell phone for district
I've
calls.
submitted text messages for showing that I have used my cell phone for that. Yes.
Okay. To be clear, you use your personal cell phone for district calls, correct?
You're asking me if I've ever used my district cell phone for calls? Is that
Yes.
what you're saying?
Yes.
I'm sure of it, yes.
Okay. For emails, for district-related emails, do you use your personal phone?
Oh, you're asking me my personal phone?
Yes.
No, I do not use my personal phone for emails related to school board related activity.
Okay, just to make sure we're on the same page, but you do use your personal cell phone for district-related calls.
That I would say is probable, but I don't have those records in front of me.
Where are the records?
I've submitted some of them. I don't have personal records of those calls.
All right, before we talk about that, do you use your personal cell phone for text messages related to district business?
Yes, and I've submitted those on all the public records requests.
So just to make sure I understand you correctly, you do probably use your personal cell phone for district calls, correct?
Probably.
Okay. You do use your personal cell phone for district-related text messages,
Yeah, because I remember submitting those and doing those and everything else. Yep.
okay? But you're not sure if you've used your personal cell phone for district-related emails?
Yeah, no. Yeah, no.
You can answer.
No, it doesn't.
No, you're not sure, or no, you don't use
No,
it?
I do not use it
Okay.
for emails.
What do you use for emails that are
Form.
district related?
Normal is my phone, district cell phone, and district laptop.
All right, the records pertaining to your personal cell phone. I think you said something earlier about you don't have access to those. Do you have access to the records for your personal cell phone?
I have to go print them out.
Okay, from what?
There's an online thing that you go to and you submit.
Who's the carrier?
I think we have T-Mobile or AT&T. It's one of those two.
When you
My
say-
wife does all of the the phone stuff.
That's what my next question was, because you said we. I assume you and your wife have a cell phone account together.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a yes?
Yes.
Okay. And in order to access your records, you have to get a password, go to their website, log in,
Yes.
and download them from
Let her
there.
finish the question.
I'm sorry.
Is it?
Yeah.
You said yes, but
I'm
let me
waiting.
just so it's clear for the court reporter. In order to access those records, you have to go to a website, enter a password, and download the records from there.
Yes.
Okay. You have done that in this case, is that correct? Because the judge ordered you to provide some records and preserve those. Provide them to your attorney and preserve them,
Yes.
okay? And when you did that, how did you access those records?
The same way you just stated.
Went to a website, entered a password, and downloaded them, is that correct?
Yes.
Gave them to your attorney?
Yes.
Okay. When you did that download, where were you?
I don't remember.
Did you do them at home?
No, I don't think I would do that at home.
Did you do it at somebody's office?
I don't know. I apologize. I don't know when I downloaded those.
Well, you've done that in the last few months, is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Is that yes?
Yes.
Okay, because the judge ordered you to do it by a certain deadline, which I don't have in front of me, but it wasn't that long ago.
My attorney asked me to.
Okay, and you don't recall where you were when you downloaded them?
No.
Who were you with when you downloaded them?
I think Paul and I were together one time.
So in order to comply with the judge's order, you downloaded them, you don't know where you were, but you think you were with Mr. Gibbs when you say Paul? Is that yes?
Yes.
And what did you do with them once you downloaded them?
I sent them to Mr. Moore.
Okay. Did you do the download on your computer, your district computer?
I don't remember that.
When you sent them to Mr. Mora, did you send him the entire downloaded bills or did you redact anything out?
I think I sent both. I can't remember what that was.
You think you sent the entire version and also a redacted version to Mr. Mora?
Form.
I can't remember specifically what it was, but I did suffice whatever it was that was needed.
Okay. And you think that was only on one occasion that you downloaded your cell phone records from your personal account?
I can't remember how many times I downloaded specific.
Okay. So in order to comply with the judge's order, that was not that long ago, you don't remember how many times you downloaded documents and you don't recall where you were when you did the
I
download.
can't give you a specific amount of times because it's on, like, I don't know if I did multiple times or one time, and I couldn't tell you where specifically I was at the time, but I can tell you that I did.
And as stated, if you don't know, that's a perfectly acceptable answer.
Okay. So when you have used your personal cell phone for calls and text messages related to district business, have you used any apps rather than the phone system? Have you used any social media apps to communicate about district related business?
Be more specific, please.
Okay. Are you aware what Facebook Messenger is?
Facebook Messenger, yes.
Okay.
I've tried it a couple times. I'm not very good at it.
Have you used it to communicate about district?
That I can't be specific about. I've never been asked to provide that. I'd have to look at that, but I'm not very good at that.
Okay. What about Signal? Do you use Signal?
No, I don't use Signal. There was a time that I downloaded the app and tried to use it for something, but then realized that, again, like Messenger, I wasn't very good at it.
So Signal is not loaded on your personal cell phone?
Should not be, no.
Is it loaded on your district issued cell phone?
No.
You might have a Signal account though, since you...
If I do, it is not used at all.
So you haven't used Signal to communicate with Randy Fine, correct?
No.
Have you used Signal to communicate with John Tobias?
No.
What about Wayne Ivy? Have you used Signal to communicate with Wayne Ivy?
To be honest with you, I know I would never talk to them through Signal, but I don't know who I would even use it for. I'm not.
Why do you say that? I wouldn't talk to them
Because
through Signal.
When I downloaded Signal, I tried to use it, and then I realized I just wasn't good at it like Messenger, and I deleted it.
Okay.
So, and I don't think that it was literally a short amount of time.
What about Facebook Messenger? Have you used Facebook Messenger to communicate with John Tobias, Randy Fine, or Wayne Ivy?
Not that I know of, no.
So when you say that you have used your personal cell phone for communications that are calls or texts, are you just using is it an iPhone?
Mm-hmm.
Is that a yes?
Yes.
Okay, and so you're just using the texting app that comes with the iPhone?
Yes.
And then you're not making calls through an app, are you?
No.
Okay.
No, I don't do that.
But it's possible that you have then called or sent text messages using your personal phone to John Tobias, correct?
Is it possible that I used my
Yeah, let me rephrase
cell
that.
phone and text messages to call John Tobias?
Have you called John Tobias using your personal cell phone?
Yes.
Have you texted John Tobias using your personal cell phone?
Yes.
Have you called Randy Fine using your personal cell phone?
Yes.
Have you texted Randy Fine using your personal cell phone?
Yes.
Have you called Wayne Ivy from your personal cell phone?
Yes.
Have you texted Wayne Ivy from your personal cell phone?
Yes.
What about Bailey Gallion? Do you know who she is?
Yes. Reporter for the Florida Today.
Okay. Have you called Bailey Gallion in the past from your personal cell phone?
Yes.
Have you texted her from your personal cell phone?
Yes.
What about Tim Bovanik? Have you called him from your personal cell phone?
Yes.
Have you texted him from your personal cell phone?
Yes.
What about anybody else related to BCSO? Would you know who Laura Moody is?
No, I'm not friends with. Is that the Attorney General?
No, that's Ashley Moody, but Laura Moody is the sheriff's attorney.
Oh, okay.
Do you know who she is?
I don't know her.
Okay. What about, so since you don't know who she is, you would not have called or texted her from your personal cell phone. Is that a safe assumption?
I would assume so.
Okay. What about John Ditmore? Have you called him from your personal cell phone?
Yes.
Have you texted him from your personal cell phone?
Yes.
What about Morris Richardson? Have you
Yes.
called him from your personal cell phone?
Yes.
Have you texted him from your personal cell phone?
I don't know if I've ever texted him, but I have talked to him on the phone.
What about an Officer Nunez? Have you called him from your personal cell phone?
Nunez.
Nunez? His first name is escaping me. Do you know his first
I
name?
don't. It doesn't sound familiar to me.
You don't think you've called an Officer Nunez from your personal cell phone?
If Officer Nunez is a part of BCSO, I've never, no, I don't know if I have or not. It's not somebody that I know.
Okay. And do you know if you've texted Officer Nunez from your personal cell phone?
Is Officer Nunez a male or a female?
It's a man.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
Okay. Now, how do you, just in your day-to-day, first become, do you know who Major Neal is?
Yes.
Who is that?
He was head of security for Brevard Public Schools.
Do you think you've called Major Neal from your personal cell phone?
Yes.
You think you've texted Major Neal from your personal cell phone?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So, in your day-to-day, how do you first become aware that there is a public records requesting documents that you might have in your possession?
Day to day.
Well, how do you become aware that there's a public records request pertaining to
Best
you?
way is when you receive an email from Miss Holly Christmas.
Okay, and Holly Christmas is who?
She's head of public records requests for Brevard Public Schools.
All right, so as I understand it, records requests go to Miss Holly Christmas, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Is that a yes?
Yes.
And then she contacts you about documents you might have in your possession,
So anybody can make a public records request to the school.
right?
Those end up with Miss Holly Christmas one avenue or another. Courts, everything else. She is the person, for the most part, that is the one that requests those.
Okay. And you become aware of it because she emails you?
There's an email that may not come, it either comes from her or public records request at Brevard Schools. It's kind of another email.
Okay.
And then that comes in our email.
All right. So the way that you become aware of a public records request that pertains to you is from an email from the records department, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
If I don't fill you in right, just snap and tell me real quick because I apologize.
When you get a public records request that might request items that would be found on a personal device, what do you do?
So I receive an email. I try to log off enough time to sit down and do it because it takes a little bit of time to go through depending on what it is. And you fulfill the request based on what it is they're asking for.
Okay, well, let's say that somebody sent a public records request for text messages off of your personal cell phone related to district business.
Okay.
Okay, what would you do after you got the email from the records department?
So they're asking for my personal cell phone texts is what you're saying?
Right.
Okay, so I would go to my phone. I would try to identify any phone numbers that individual calls from me and read through them and determine which ones are public records and which ones aren't. If it's somebody that I speak to, that's it. And then I would submit those to the district.
Do you screenshot like the text messages on your iPhone?
Screenshot multiple different ways. There's ways that we do it.
What are the other ways?
You screenshot, you take a picture, you do different stuff on your phone.
Take a picture of your phone and
Like
screen.
you take that's a screenshot.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Okay, just to be clear, is there any other way that you capture the images other than screenshot?
I can't determine that there may not be, but that's usually the way we do it is we screenshot what we have and we put it on there.
And then you return them back to the records department?
Submit them.
You can answer.
Yeah, there's a couple different ways. We've had to establish a separate system through Mr. John Quick to submit. Depends on if it's related to a school board member or if it's related to a regular public records request.
Okay, well, before we talk about Mr. Quick, before Mr. Quick was involved, you would screenshot the text messages and send them back to the records department. Is that what you're telling me?
Yes.
Okay. Does anybody else check your work to make sure that you are returning the right records? Or does Miss Christmas just give over what you provided to her?
Nobody else comes and checks my work with me.
So
Nobody
IT
else from the district comes and says these are or not. No.
Okay, so IT doesn't come and
No.
IT doesn't what?
yeah, IT doesn't come and look at your personal cell phone to make sure you captured all the correct images.
No.
Form,
So-
sorry.
The what about is the procedure any different when it's your district issued cell phone?
Form.
I'm not sure how they submit that. I don't
Okay.
know.
Well, if I were to submit a request for text messages that were on your district issued cell phone, what would the procedure be?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I don't know.
I've
I've never given them, so I don't know.
You've never given text messages off of your district issued cell phone?
Not that I remember.
Is that because you don't use your district issued cell phone
No.
for text messages?
No.
So I know in this case, there was one instance in which you did provide text messages off of your personal cell phone, correct?
There's been multiple cases, so I'm not sure which one you're talking about.
And so anything that would have been provided from the records department would have been what you screenshot, sent to the records department, and then they provided back to Ms. Jenkins or myself.
Yep.
All right. Do you, well, let's talk about, since you mentioned John Quick, who is John Quick?
He's a gentleman that Dr. Mullins, decided that due to the circumstances of public records requests between board members needed to take over as that process.
Okay. What circumstances?
A board member requesting to another board member.
Why did that become an issue?
It's never happened in our school board's history. And there was some situations that occurred that allowed it to happen.
What situations?
Between staff being between two board members is what I was told.
By Dr. Mullins?
Mhm.
Is that a yes?
Yes. Or Paul or somebody.
Somebody told you that staff was what? Didn't like to be stuck between two board members? Is that what you're
It's
saying?
not an appropriate place to have staff is what the recollection was, and it was restated by Paul and restated by Dr. Mullins.
Okay. But that didn't remove the records department entirely from the process, did it?
No.
They were still involved, is that correct?
What would happen, right, Quick would submit his public records to Holly Christmas to fulfill the request.
Okay. So once Mr. Quick got involved, tell me what the sequence of events then is if I were to request text messages from your personal cell phone.
I would submit my personal cell phone, requested whatever's to John Quick.
And then I think you indicated earlier that Mr. Quick would then turn over the responsive records to the records department. Is that correct?
Yes.
When Mr. Quick became involved, would he ever look at your personal cell phone to make sure you were turning over the correct documents, or was it still the same procedure? You just screenshot them on your own and turned them over?
Form, you can answer.
I submit them to him.
Okay. He didn't look at your cell phone to make sure you were turning over the correct items?
No.
Form.
Have you had ethics training or public records training on what to turn over?
Form.
Be more specific. Turn over what?
Well, have you haven't had any training regarding public records?
We get training every year, but to say that I am specifically remember getting training for public records, I couldn't tell you.
What's the training every year that you get?
It's a school board member or elected official training that you have to do. It's 4 hours. It's we've done a couple through the school district, fun stuff, and some other ones I've done online and stuff like that.
Is it ethics training?
I think so. I don't know the specific time, but it's something we have to do every year.
And do you think that that includes information on responding to public records requests?
Be honest with you, I would have no idea. At no time have I remembered it ever being specific to that, but, you know.
How do you know? You get a records request from the records department.
Mm-hmm.
How do you, as Matt Susan, know what you're obligated to turn over and what you're not?
You are supposed to turn over anything that's related to school board activity
And how do you know that?
because it says it inside the email.
Okay.
It usually gives the topic.
So you just follow the instructions from the email.
Depending on what they're requesting.
Well, you know, in this case, Ms. Jenkins requested phone logs and you have not turned those over, correct?
I don't have those in front of me. I wouldn't, if you have those requests, we could look at them, but I don't know specifically to
Okay.
what you're talking about.
Right.
Usually it's for personal information devices, whatever it is. It says, I don't know if it ever said call logs.
This ethics training that we've been talking about, where is that conducted?
Oh, all across the state.
You know, when you've done it, where was it located?
There's been some that were located over by, we did one year over by the grills over here. We did another one in the school board that our former attorney did. There's been some that have been offered online from FADS, stuff like that.
From what?
FADS, it's FADDS, I think, the Florida Association of District School Superintendents. I can't remember what it is. It's one that they do every year.
Have you ever gone to a League of City Ethics?
We host the League of Cities. No. I don't think I've ever been to a League of Cities. It's kind of a weird thing. So we've requested League of members from the League of Cities to come to ours, and we've hosted. But usually Brevard is doing it, so there might be League of Cities members there, but I don't recall going to a League of Cities ethics training.
Have you ever publicly said that the League of Cities ethics training that you went to said that phone logs are not public records? Have you ever said that in the public?
I don't know if I have.
Do you recall anywhere stating in any sort of meeting that phone logs were not public records?
I don't know if I have or I haven't. There's been question of if they are or are not. I've been consistent with that.
Okay. Have you ever read any of the provisions of Chapter 119 of the Florida statutes?
No. I don't know if I have or I haven't, but not to the point where I remember.
I'll just do these and then hand it back to me and we'll go one at a time.
Is it all right if we take a break so that
Yes,
I
we
can use
can
the
take a break.
restroom? Thank you.
Let's take a 5-minute break.
Going off the record at 10:31.
Thank you.
Going on the record at 10:39.
All right, just to go back to something that we were talking about before the break, I was asking about ethics training that you've done. In the last 2 years, have you ever been to ethics training that was put on by the board? And you know, by board, I mean the school board.
There was a time where I was. I just don't know if it was in the last 2 years.
What about ethics training that is hosted or involves the League of Cities? Have you attended that?
I don't remember attending a League of Cities ethics training. If that's,
And you don't recall if you've ever said that an attorney related to any of those trainings that you may or may not have gone to told you that phone logs were not public records?
I don't remember having that conversation, no.
Have you ever stated in any capacity that an attorney told you that phone logs were not public records?
Nah, I've had attorneys say that they're not public records. To say that that was at a certain location, I could not tell you.
Okay. What attorneys told you that?
A variety of attorneys that I know.
Who is that?
I don't know names. I'm not sure.
You don't recall the names of the attorneys that told you that phone logs were not public records?
We're talking a year and a half, 2 years ago.
So you don't recall?
I could not be specific, so
Is that a yes, you don't recall?
I don't recall.
Okay. And you don't recall if you ever made any public statements about that?
No.
All right, I'm going to show you what's been marked as plaintiff's exhibit 1. Take your time to look at that. It is a, for the record, 5-page composite exhibit. Take a look at that and then let me know when you're done and I will ask you some questions.
There's something wrong here. Are these separate, like completely separate, or are they following in order?
I don't know that the messages are necessarily in order. They're in order the way I received them, I
So
believe.
there's a section missing here, I think. It's kind of out of order. I didn't know if that's what it was, because this one goes, she's replying, and then halfway through this one, it starts on another one.
Yeah. I'm gonna take a look at
So,
it.
am
Let me make sure I didn't miss a page.
yeah, it's right there.
What's that? Two separate?
Yeah, but it's regarding the same thing.
Okay. Let's stick that up then. bringing you back a modified Exhibit 1. I just divided them into two different email chains, I think, going about the same public records request.
Do you want me to hand it to the witness, to the deponent?
Yeah. Have you had an opportunity to look over Exhibit 1?
I'm trying to put them in order for you, yeah.
I don't know that they're going to go in order because I think it's two
fine.
different
It's
email
just,
chains.
you're asking me to review documents and they were out of order, so I'm just flowing through to make sure I understand what's requested here, because some of these I may be seeing for the first time. Just don't understand that piece. Just seems there's something missing over here. Okay. This one, you want me to, are we on this one, or what are we?
Take a look at 19 too, and I'll ask you questions about both of them.
If you ask me questions, I'd like to have them in front of me when you ask
Yeah,
them.
I will. I'm just
Okay.
going to put a paper clip with this.
Okay. Okay, so let's go like this. This is the one that makes no sense. If I may,
Mm-hmm.
there's a section missing in here. I don't know if you did it on
We'll
purpose.
talk about
but
that
there's,
once
it
you read it
seems,
over.
well, there's a half of an email in here, and I don't, it's weird because this isn't the sequence that it came in. There's something missing here, that's all. I haven't seen these before. I don't think I haven't seen these, so.
Okay. Are you done reviewing, and I'll ask you questions?
Sure.
Okay. All right. So I'll hand you back what's been marked as Defendant's Exhibit 1, which is now a 2-page document, and then we looked at that a few minutes
I
ago.
think there's duplication on these two.
All right, just wait for what her question is.
Yeah. Okay. Would you agree with me that there's a public records request from Ms. Jenkins on page 2 of Exhibit 1?
Here. Yes.
Okay, and will you read that for us?
I'm requesting the call log of Mr. Susan, both personal and school board issued calls to and from Randy Fine, date range July 1st to present day. And
Okay.
present day at that time was August 12th.
All right. Do you recall getting anything from Miss Christmas or the records department with that request?
I'm assuming you're saying that she sent an email to me saying we would like this request.
I'm
I
asking
recall,
if she did.
I've answered all of the emails, so yes, I must have received it because I've actually answered all of them. All
Okay.
of
Just,
those records.
just answer the question.
Yes.
Yeah. As I understand it, you don't have an independent recollection of this particular public records request, but since you believe you responded to all of them from the records department, you must have received it.
Yes.
Okay. And then what we have before you as Exhibit 19, which I think,
That's this one.
yeah, that,
This one's 1. This is 19. Okay.
yeah. Does that pertain, did they assign a public records request number to that?
Thought it was the same one. Hang on a second. Can you specifically say where you're talking about?
Okay, do you see a public records request that Miss Christmas would have assigned as 23-156?
356 here. The original request from Miss Jenkins is what you're asking, or?
Yes, do you see anything indicating that this pertains to public records request 23-156?
This will be processed. And I request the phone number here, so phone. Again, there's sections missing here. Ask for the phone number, so it's attached. Request for
We can
phone.
talk, we'll talk about
I'm
this in
trying to-
sections, but just, do you see the number that has been assigned, the public records request number?
There's a number flowing through here, yes, I'm
Yes.
sorry.
And
But
is
there's
that-
no official request in here. These are all comments back and forth.
Right, is the number 23-156?
Yes,
Okay, all right. And obviously you believe that there's some communications that have been omitted back and forth between Miss Jenkins and Miss Christmas, is that what you think?
you mean, there is, it seems that there's something here, and from here to here, there's something different. It's not in order. These are 3 separate items, I think. If I can show you, I can explain it to you.
Yeah, hand me back the documents.
Yeah. And some of them are duplicated.
Unfortunately, the printing of emails is not always perfect.
It's okay.
I'm going to hand back to you Exhibit 1, which you've already identified, Miss Jenkins' public record request on page 2. And do you see on page 1 that that public records request has been assigned number 23-156?
Yeah, I see a public records
Okay,
request here.
all right. And then we have public records request, we have plaintiff's exhibit 19. You believe that there's some communications that might be omitted from this exhibit, but do you agree that these communications also pertain to 23-156?
Yes,
Okay.
it has that ticket inside there.
All right. Now, in this particular exhibit 19, on page 2, do you see a communication from Miss Christmas to Miss Jenkins that says, I'm going to point to you this paragraph here. Do you see that?
Okay.
Can you read that out loud?
Good afternoon, Ms. Jenkins. I asked for the phone log from the cell phone provider for Mr. Susan. It is attached. Your request for the call log for Mr. Susan's school board issued phones for all calls to and Randy Fine, range to present, produced no results. I'm hoping to have the cell phone, personal phone results soon. I will let you know as soon as possible.
Okay. Now, would you agree that you have not provided any personal cell phone logs in response to any of these public records requests?
I have not produced anything to date, no. I think
Okay.
I
You
did.
gave your attorney some logs, but you haven't
Okay.
turned them over to the records department.
I thought you received those. Okay, I don't. I turned them over to the attorney.
Okay. So after the lawsuit was filed, you turned over your personal cell phone logs to your attorney. Is that correct?
You were asking me when I did? Because we created, that was a long time after. So I did not respond to this for personal call logs at the time.
Okay. At the time, in reference to 23-156, you did not provide your personal cell phone logs.
I don't know. I'm not sure what you're asking. I don't.
Okay. Well, you just said at the time that you didn't give your personal cell phone logs, and I just wanted to.
I didn't know if there were any call logs to give. I don't have access to those call logs. I don't have anything. I don't know how I would be able to produce them.
Okay, so at the time that the records department got this request, which they numbered 23-156, you did not know how to access your personal cell phone records?
No, I never had that access to get there.
Okay. Did you make any efforts to figure that out?
I don't know if those call logs or anything in there would have been a public record or how it would work.
Okay. Well, why did you not know how to access those?
They were under my wife's information.
Okay. Did you ask your wife for the login information?
No.
Well, we talked earlier about how you eventually did give your personal cell phone logs over to your attorney,
Yep.
Mr. Moore, and you think that Mr. Gibbs was there at the time that you downloaded them.
Mm-hmm.
Is that yes?
Yes.
How did you become able to do that?
So it went through a process where I had to go to AT&T and request a personal log and or access to what is a series of phone calls.
Okay. And did you do that after this lawsuit was filed?
Yes.
Okay.
Some
That mean?
reminder, yeah.
All right. That's what I like. Did you ever, when you say that you went to AT&T to get the login information, did you physically go to an AT&T store?
No, I don't know how I got it, but there's a way to find out how to do that. I had never done it before.
Online?
Right.
Okay. So when you got the information from AT&T, you mean that you went on the AT&T website?
It's either AT&T or T-Mobile. And I
Okay.
can't remember if I made a phone call or how I obtained that, but I did go on that site eventually and download what I could.
Who is your personal cell phone carrier?
It's either AT&T or T-Mobile. I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
Okay. And you're not sure how you got the login information either?
No. You're asking me how I got it. I'm
Right.
not sure how I got the login, whether it was that I called them or that I went online to try to find it. I had to get access to a password. I don't remember how that all went. But I did get access and I did provide it.
Did you do it or did your wife do it for you?
No, she did not do that for me.
So you don't know who your cell phone carrier is and you can't recall how you got the password so that you could get the documents from Mr. Mora.
Say that again?
Is that right? You don't recall who your cell phone carrier is as you sit here today?
It's one or the other.
Okay. And you don't recall how you got the login information to get in and get the records that you gave Mr. Mora?
I logged in. I don't know how I obtained my password, which was either that I found online how to do that or that I called the AT&T or T-Mobile number and went that route. I don't know.
Did you ever tell Mr. Gibbs that you had this difficulty before the lawsuit was filed?
Form.
And this difficulty, I mean, you didn't know how to log into the website.
I don't know if I ever did.
Did you ever tell Mr. Gibbs, I can't get my phone records because I don't know how to log in?
I don't know.
Did you ever tell Mr. Gibbs that you can't get your phone records because you need a subpoena to get them?
No. Not that I know of.
Why is your personal cell phone account in your name or your wife's name?
It was in my wife's name. I'm not sure if it's in my name now. I don't know. There's been changes between carriers, and I think that's why the T-Mobile and the AT&T is where I'm having that issue.
Okay.
I'm not sure. I'm not in charge of it. I don't take it.
Okay. So you're not in charge of it, meaning your wife's in charge of it? Is that what you mean?
I didn't set it up.
All right. So it's safe to say that you did not produce any personal cell phone logs prior to the lawsuit being filed. Is that correct?
Correct.
And it's safe to say, though, that Miss Christmas or somebody in the records department would have sent you every public records request. Is that correct?
Yes.
In your review of this case, the complaint, the attachments, did you ever see anything that you did not receive from Miss Christmas?
There's been a lot, but I think that I've covered them.
You think you've received every public records request that's at issue in this case?
I'm sure there's been over 20.
Yeah. And so you think you did receive them?
I'm sure. I've responded to, I think, all of them.
So you've actually sent emails back to the records department for Mr. Quick on every single public records request?
I'm not sure. It usually depends on who's requesting. So if Miss Jenkins is requesting, it usually goes through Mr. Quick.
Okay.
And if it's not, it goes through Miss Holly Christmas.
But my question is, earlier you said, I'm sure I did receive every public records request from the records department.
Those, I think, yes, I've responded to those.
Okay. You've responded to every single public records request that's at issue in this case?
There's been over 20 of them, so I apologize if I have or have not have them in front of me. There's certain ones that are open. There's all kinds of stuff that goes on. I'm not sure.
All right. I'm going to hand you what's been marked as Plaintiff's Exhibit 2.
These are the same ones that you gave me, and there's a section missing. I haven't reviewed them all, but that's the tail end of one of the other ones that you gave.
You think those pertain to the public records request that we just went over? Or is there a different number assigned?
What was the other number?
23,156. Is that
Oh,
what?
this is a different number.
Okay.
Seems to be the same verbiage. Response to his records request.
What number is that one?
This is 23,173.
Okay. When you've reviewed it, let me know and I'll ask you some questions.
Should be aware of the phone. These are again out of order. There's sections missing here.
Okay. Look at it and I'll ask you some questions about it.
There's just stuff in there. Okay. I guess, can I hang on to it while you're going
Yeah,
through it?
yeah. So you have Exhibit 2 in front of you. How many pages is that?
5.
Okay, 5-page document. Have you been able to identify the public records request?
Number is 173.
Okay. And do you see the text of the public records request, the email that Ms. Jenkins would have sent?
The original one,
Yes,
time frame.
I think it's on the front there. Is that
Okay,
it?
that's it. That's the
Okay,
first
will you
one.
read that out loud and give us the date?
I'm requesting the call log of calls made to the FDOE made by Mr. Susan from both personal and district issued phones.
Okay. Now, do you see a response in there from Ms. Christmas indicating that there were no records on the district phone? If you want to hand it to me, I'll point it to you. Point it out.
I see one where she's asking if there's a specific number to the FDOE time frame. What was the question?
Do you see a response by Ms. Christmas that there were no records on the district phone?
Do you have a specific phone number? Request made. Procedure for the request for the house system.
When you whisper, it confuses the court reporter because she doesn't know if she's supposed to be typing in or not. Just so.
Sorry. If you can show me where it says it. I went through it, I didn't see it.
In the middle of page 4 appears to be a response from Ms. Christmas to Ms. Jenkins regarding the district phone.
That is,
Do you see that?
yes.
Can you read it out loud?
I just wanted to give you an update. There were no records found for his district phone. I did send him a reminder for the requests for his personal phone.
Okay. And you would agree that there's nothing in at least that exhibit, and I know you've indicated you think some communications might be missing, but there's nothing in that exhibit indicating that you gave a response to that public record request.
I don't have my requests in front of me.
Okay.
I've responded to all of them, I think.
So that's my question, and you can put that back down. Earlier, you said you've responded to all public records requests. That doesn't mean that you provided documents related to every public records request. Is that true?
Depending on each public records request, I may or may not have provided documentation based upon what was available at the
Okay.
time.
So there are times that you provided records in response to a public records request. Is that correct?
Based on what it is, the scope that they're asking for.
Okay. There's times that you have not provided public documents in response to a public records request.
I'm not sure.
Okay, but you haven't provided any phone logs off of your personal phone in response to a public records request, have you?
I'm not, I provided those, I think, to Mr. Mora. I think that I have fulfilled those.
Prior to the lawsuit, I should clarify, prior to the lawsuit,
No.
you did not provide any phone logs in response to
No.
any public records request?
No.
Okay. Does that mean, no, you did not provide any, let me ask this again, because I think we're getting crossways. Prior to the lawsuit being filed, you did not provide any phone logs in response to any public records requests, is that correct?
Personal call logs, phone logs, yeah.
Okay. So, when you earlier said, I responded to all the public records requests, what did you mean by that?
Say that again?
Well, earlier you said, I've responded to all the public records requests, but we know that you haven't provided personal cell phone logs. So what do you mean by that when you say that?
I have no idea because not all of them ask for personal call logs, cell phone. There's different variations for each one of them. Whether they're supposed to or not, I don't know either. So just making a request for some doesn't mean that they actually exist. So
What do you mean though when you say, I've responded to all the public records requests? What do you mean by that when we know you haven't provided all the documents that have been requested?
4.
you're asking me to say that I have provided all
No.
the information that you, I don't understand.
I'm just asking for clarification, what you personally mean when you say, I've responded to all the public records requests. What does that mean to you?
Means I've submitted the request information that was asked of me at the time.
Okay. But we know you didn't provide phone logs from your personal cell phone prior to the lawsuit. So there's been times where you have not provided the requested records, correct?
I'm not sure if they existed. You're asking me to say that I did or didn't provide something that was requested by the thing, and I didn't know if they existed.
So in your mind, you provided all documents requested except for some that you didn't know if they existed or not.
You're saying that call logs that we may have or don't have existed or didn't exist were public records. And you're telling me this based upon a series of 20 or 25 public records requests that may or may not have had public records requests for call logs on them.
Right.
I'm just asking you to specify.
Well, I'm asking you to clarify because you've said this numerous times in public. You've told the public what you're telling us today. I've responded to all public records requests. In fact, you've tried to say that Ms. Jenkins has this false narrative out there when she says that you haven't provided all the records. You've been on the dais during board meetings saying, I've responded, I've provided all these public records requests. You're telling us today you responded to all the public records requests, but we know you didn't, okay, because of whatever reason, because we are in a lawsuit over public records that have not been provided. So my question is this, when you say, I have responded to all the public records requests, what do you, Matt Susin, mean when you say that? Because I want to make sure I have what
I've
your meaning is.
responded to my public records requests
By doing what?
by submitting the information that I had at the time.
Okay. So that's what I wanted to clarify. When you say, I've responded, are you saying that you sent an email to the records department clarifying that you have documents or not? Or are you saying, I've responded because I've provided everything?
So you're speaking.
Form, you can answer.
You're speaking about over 20 to 25 public records requests that have been for personal cell phones and other things. You're asking me to ask if I've submitted all of the public records requests that are there. I have responded to all of them. Now, whether there's some that ask for certain things or not, I don't have them in front of me and I don't have that recollection. I have responded to all of them.
How do you know then that you responded to all of them?
Because I've submitted them. I've requested that from Miss Lena, our assistant, to provide me a list. I've gone through them and I've checked them. There's a lot.
And so, how do you reconcile the fact, though, that you did not provide records with your statement that you've responded to every single one?
I think you and the deponent are talking past each other on an
Well,
issue.
I want him to clarify.
Okay.
I want him to clarify when.
You're asking me if I did not submit a public record.
No, I'm asking you what you personally mean when you say I responded.
I responded. I sent an email responding to the public record.
You sent an email to who?
It depends, because if you're asking me specific to Ms. Jenkins, then I send that directly over to Mr. Quick, depending on when he came on or not.
Okay.
There was a time when he wasn't a part of this, so there's other records requests that were made, because there were so many of them that actually were made before he came on. So you're asking me to tell you things that may have variables in them, that's all.
Okay, when you say you responded by sending an email, did your email sometimes say, I'm not providing the records, or I don't think I have to provide the records?
No. I responded by saying these are the records that I have at the time.
And so there should be an email to records or Mr. Quick that is a response from you on every single public records request.
Should be, yes. That I know of. I mean, you're asking me about, we've received a lot, and I've received a lot from Ms. Jenkins.
Okay, and that email would have all the documents attached to it that you were aware of at the time.
That I had in my possession, yes.
Okay. In this particular case, you're saying that you didn't have the phone logs in your possession. Is that correct?
Right.
Because you did not know how to log into your T-Mobile or AT&T account. Is that correct?
That and a host of other reasons that just make it to where they're not, I didn't submit them. I didn't know that they were public records. There's why we're here in this case.
Okay, yeah, what's the host of other reasons?
Just that you can't log in. Are they public records? We requested that to the Attorney General. We asked other questions about that. Like, that was what this whole conversation's been about.
Okay, so if you had difficulty getting the records because you didn't know how to log in and get them, did you put that in an email to anybody?
You asked me how I got the records, and I told you that's the process that I went about doing it.
Right, but you also said you didn't know how to do it
Prior
until
to
after the
doing it,
lawsuit.
I did not.
Okay. But you also said there's a response because you sent an email in response to every single
responded.
public records request.
One way or another, I sent an email with different verbiage, probably for each one, saying I've responded to this.
And your response could have been that you don't know how to access the records? Did
No,
you say
I
that to
never said
anybody?
that. I would never have said that.
Okay.
If I don't.
Were there emails where the response was, I don't think I have to provide these because they're not public records?
Not that I'm aware of.
So what would your response have been other than to provide the records? What would your responses have been back to the records department or Mr. Quick if you weren't claiming you couldn't access them and you weren't claiming that they weren't public records and you weren't providing the records? What kind of responses did you send?
You keep asking me that I have not provided the records. They did not exist. So how am I supposed to produce a record that doesn't exist? Whether I do or I don't know if it's a public record. That's what this case is about.
How did they not exist?
They did not exist. I did not have them in physical form in front of me. I did not have them.
Okay. So your definition of a record not existing is when you don't have a paper copy in front of you. Is that right?
Form, you can answer.
That's not true.
Okay. Well, when you say a record doesn't exist, in this particular case, we're asking for phone logs off of your personal phone
Right.
that you admitted publicly in here today that you used for district business.
Mm-hmm.
And you're saying that the records didn't exist.
Because you have to
Form, you can answer.
because you have to definitively say that they are a part of the school board activity. There's no way to know if they are or they're not.
Okay. So is it that they didn't exist, or there was just no way if they pertain to district business?
Object to form.
A combination of both.
Okay. Did you send emails to people stating this?
I don't know. I don't have them in front of me.
Did you ever provide any screenshots of your call log off of your cell phone to anybody?
Not that I know of, no.
Have you had an iPhone the whole time you've had a district phone?
Form, you can answer.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
You have an iPhone now that's a district issued phone.
I do.
And your personal cell phone is a district issued, excuse me, your personal cell phone is an iPhone.
Yes.
And you know how to screenshot, correct?
Yes.
When did Mr. Quick get involved? Sometime in February of 22, does that sound right?
Form, you can answer.
I don't know.
Did anybody prior to the lawsuit being filed ask you to go onto your cell phone carrier and download the records?
I don't know.
Did anybody prior to the lawsuit being filed ask you to screenshot your phone log off of your phone?
I don't know.
Did you have any, without telling me the contents of it, did you have any conversation with Mr. Quick about the difficulties in providing records off of your personal cell phone?
I don't know.
Did you talk to Ms. Christmas and tell her you were having difficulty getting the records pertaining to your personal cell phone?
I don't know.
But you know that you responded to every request, is that right?
Every request for Miss Jenkins?
Mm-hmm.
I'm assuming so, yes. There may be some that are outstanding because she made them recently or something, but I don't know.
All right.
Want me into the phone?
Yes. I'm handing you plaintiff's exhibit 16. Will you take a look at that?
Okay.
ready?
Sure.
Okay. Do you recognize Exhibit 16?
It's from my email.
Is that a yes? You do recognize
Yes.
it? Okay. What do you recognize it to be?
An email.
Okay. Is it an
To
email
Paul.
that you sent?
Looks that way, yes.
Okay. What's the date?
September 2nd.
Of 22? Okay. And it's an email from you to who?
Paul Gibbs.
Okay. And is it pertaining to public records requests? Is that a yes?
Yes.
Do you see at the beginning a line starting, I am not asserting any exemption?
Yep.
Is that a yes?
Sorry, just, I know you're
Yes,
trying
I'm
to
sorry,
say, but
I'm
still
sorry.
say yes for the record,
Sorry.
please.
Yes. Sorry.
Can you read that paragraph?
Which one?
Read that first paragraph, please.
Mr. Gibbs, school board member Ms. Jennifer Jenkins has requested my personal cell phone call logs. I am not asserting any exemption regarding their requesting all logs. Rather, there's simply no phone public records to provide. Please find below the legal justification for this. I have also called on experts, attorneys in this area, and was presented with the League of Cities training in Fort Lauderdale this month supporting this position.
Okay. Let me have you read another portion. Will you read the last sentence of paragraph 2?
However, my personal cell phone is not owned, leased by Brevard Public Schools, nor does BPS provide any stipend reimbursement or otherwise compensate myself or other school board members for their personal cell phone use.
Okay. And do you see a part read me the last sentence on the second page before your signature?
Moreover, thank you for reviewing this issue.
Read the sentence before, please.
Moreover, given per my personal calls, it would be difficult to identify with certainty which calls to and from the various individuals named had anything to do with school board business.
Okay. So, is that a fair and accurate copy of the email that you sent on that particular day to Mr. Gibbs?
I'm not sure.
Okay. Do you recall sending that email?
I recall sending an email like this. I don't know if this is accurate. If you pulled it from our public records, it is.
Okay. Now, I want to clarify a few things because we've been talking about the contents of that email. You are not claiming an exemption in this case, is that correct?
It says a couple of things. It says I am not asserting any exemption regarding the requesting vote logs.
Okay, and as you sit here today, you're not claiming any exemption, is that correct?
Reject a form, you can answer, understanding the witness is a fact witness and not a lawyer.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure what you mean by exemption.
What did you mean by exemption when you said use that in the email?
You're asking me to provide a conversation that was over a year and 2 months ago. I can't speak specific to this.
You don't know what you meant when you typed I'm not claiming an exemption?
If I had time to, maybe, but I can't right now, no.
Do you recall the email, sending the
I
email?
do. I recall sending something with this content to Mr. Gibbs, absolutely.
Based on your knowledge of yourself, when you read that sentence, what does it mean to you when it says, I'm not claiming an exemption?
I don't know.
Are you aware of any communications that you've given to the records department, Mr. Gibbs or Mr. Quick, in which you have asserted an exemption other than that email in front of you?
I don't know.
Okay,
Don't.
all right. What did you mean? You said, quote, rather there are simply no public records to provide. What did you mean by that? Do you know?
I must have said that there are no public records to provide. There must not have been public records to provide.
Okay, and earlier when we've been talking about our questioning earlier today, You said sometimes there were no public records to provide. What did you mean by that when you said that today?
Are you speaking to what I said in here? Or
No,
are you
today.
saying
Earlier, when you said that, what did you mean?
to what context were we speaking to it?
Well, you said sometimes, you said you responded to every public records request,
Mhm.
but then you tried to qualify it that there were sometimes no public records to provide. And in this
So-
email, you're saying there's no public
So
records to
when,
provide.
sometimes when there's a public records request and the information you didn't speak to the person about an issue or text about an issue or anything like that, then it's not a public record. So if I used my district phone and I called somebody, then that would be a public record that would be there. If I used my personal cell phone to text or something, that would be there. That's what I guess you're asking me.
Okay, is it that the records didn't exist at all, or is it that you just didn't think they met the definition of a public record?
You're running around in circles right now. I've said that this said that it was not, and no public records to provide. Now you're asking me about something that I said earlier.
Okay, but you don't dispute that that email said that there's no public records to provide, correct?
Sure.
Okay. And you're not disputing that after this lawsuit was filed, you actually did provide phone logs to Mr. Mora. You're not disputing that, correct?
I provided, yes,
Okay.
logs to Mr. Moore, yes.
All right. Okay. Now, the next sentence says, please find the legal justification for this below, I think. Is that what it says, this next sentence?
What next sentence?
After the one we just read.
The one you just read.
Do you see that part that says, quote, please find the legal justification for this in that first paragraph?
Please find below the legal justification for this, yes.
Okay, come back to that. Let's go to that. That legal justification that is later on in that email, what is that?
It's a series of court cases supporting opinion. Sorry, I need to speak louder for you. I apologize.
It's a series of what? I didn't hear the answer either.
It looks like court cases. Mhm.
Okay. Where did you get those court cases?
I'm not sure where I got them. I can't remember how I got these.
Did you get them from Mr. Ditmore?
I'm not sure if I did get them from him or somebody else.
Did you get them from Mr. Richardson?
I'm not sure.
Did you get them from Randy Fine?
I'm not sure.
Are you aware that that same case law had been used to object to another public records request that Ms. Jenkins had made in regards to Special Olympics communications?
I wasn't aware of what that was about, but that sounds like where this came from, yes.
Okay. So how would you have gotten the same case law that was used to object to that other public records request that Ms. Jenkins made in regards to the Special Olympics?
Was this submitted to, I don't know, are these submitted to court cases, stuff like that?
Okay. So
I'm
just
not
to
sure.
clarify, so I want to make sure we're on the same page. Previously, Ms. Jenkins had requested public records or communication logs between Randy Fine and other individuals regarding the Special Olympics funding that was with the city of Melbourne. Are you aware of that incident?
I'm not aware of that specific. I know that they had an issue over there.
Okay, you know they had an issue over there, meaning what to provide in response to that public records request. Is
The
that what
issue
you
was
mean?
over there was a fundraiser for Special Olympics. I actually was trying to come support her and John Ditmore that was there. I remember that barring after that, there was a lot of conversations wrapped around public records requests and stuff
Okay.
like that.
So to
And
back up,
I think it went to ethics or went somewhere.
okay. So it became kind of a scandal, for want of a better word, because Miss Jenkins was at the Special Olympics event and Randy Fine did not like that, and there was some funding pulled, and that's produced in ethics. Is that the ethics complaint that you're talking about?
I have no idea about those specifics you just spoke to.
Okay, but you are aware that Miss Jenkins did a public records request in regards to the Special Olympics issues.
I'm not aware of that.
Okay, I thought
I
you
don't
just said
know
that
if
you
I
did.
am. I'm aware that there was a situation. I'm not aware of what happened, what the legal specifics were to it.
How can you explain that the exact same case law that was used by Randy Fine and Ditmore and everybody else to object to Ms. Jenkins' Special Olympics public records request has ended up in your hands.
Are you saying that Randy Fine submitted this to case law? I'm asking you.
Yes.
I do not know where I got this from. I do not know specifically how it came to be. I do know it came from something from that moment. Something that came out of there.
Okay, so somebody related to that Special Olympics issue provided you this case law.
I don't
Form.
know. I don't know. It could be that. It could be that I got it offline. I don't know.
Oh, so you found this online now?
I don't know. I just said that earlier.
Did you do the research and compile this yourself?
You're asking me specifics about something that happened over a year and a couple of months ago. I couldn't give that to you.
Mm-hmm. Did you send a text to Mr. Ditmore requesting that case law?
Not that I know of.
Did you text Mr. Ditmore about the Special Olympics situation?
I'm not sure.
Did you have an attorney draft that up for you?
No, I did not.
Okay. And you don't recall if you found it through the internet or you did?
It's over a year ago. I don't recall where I got this from, period.
Okay, so you could have gotten it from John Ditmore, correct?
Could have gotten it from a wide variety of areas, I guess.
Could have gotten it from Morris Richardson?
You said Randy Fine filed it, so I don't know. I don't know.
Okay. And you have no explanation about why it's the same case law and argument that was used in that case?
No.
Okay, you raise several arguments in that email, that Exhibit 16. You state that I'm not asserting any exemption, end quote, but as you sit here today, you can't remember what you meant by that, correct?
You're asking me to look at a document from a year and a half ago.
It's just a yes or no. You don't know, as you sit here today, you don't know what you meant by that,
That is correct.
okay? But you agree that at that time, you said that there were no public records to provide, is that correct?
Yes.
Are you still making that assertion to this day?
You're asking me to go back to this time and
No,
and
as you
let
sit
me
here
know.
today, are you still saying that there's no public records to provide?
I don't know if there's public records to provide.
Are you a former business partner with John Ditmore?
Yes.
How were you in business together?
We had an insurance business that we filed that never transacted money and was shut down shortly after it opened.
How long ago was that?
Ooh, more than a couple of years.
How long were you in business together?
That I'm not sure, but it was a short time that I remember.
Did you have a business name that was registered with the state?
Yes.
What was that name?
I can't remember it, but I can't remember the exact name.
You can't remember the name of the business that you had with John Ditmore?
No, it was a short amount of time.
How did you first meet Randy Fine?
I don't remember.
Was it in your capacity as an elected official, or did you know him before you were on board?
I met Randy well before I was on the board.
Okay. Do you know where you met him?
No.
Are you guys friends?
To a degree, as much as anybody else can be friends in politics.
Do you guys hang out outside of official type events?
Nope.
Do you know how many kids he has?
No.
You don't know his kids' names then, do you? Do you know any of his kids'
No.
names?
No.
Do you guys play golf together?
No.
So did Randy Fine give you that case law and tell you not to respond to these records requests?
I'm not sure.
He could have.
Anybody could have.
Are you not responding to the public records request because someone told you not to?
No.
Have you talked to Randy Fine about this case?
I called him to tell him that he may be deposed.
That's it?
That's about it. Yep.
All right, let's just talk a second about scheduling. It's been about an hour, I think, but it's 11:41.
Mhm.
Probably gonna have at least another hour. Do we wanna go, can take a break and continue to go and get it done? Or is anybody wanting a lunch?
No, I'm okay to go.
Yeah, my preference is we take a comfort break, and if you've got another hour, let's just get it done.
Okay, mine too. All right, let's do it right now.
Going off the record at 11:42.
That's not.
Going on the record at 11:53.
All right, before the break, we were talking about how you know Mr. Fine, and you indicated that you had called him to let him know that he might be deposed in this case. Is that the only time that you called him in regards to this case?
Pretty sure. I don't have.
What about, do you ever communicate with Randy Fine about unofficial topics?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Form.
Do you ever communicate with Randy Fine about your children? Do you have children?
I have 5 children.
Okay. Do you ever communicate with Randy Fine about hanging out or the children having play dates or anything like that?
I don't think I've ever talked to him about our kids, but I
Okay.
mean, it's a kind of a
So what kind of unofficial things would you talk to Randy Fine about?
wide variety of state issues, local issues, people, things. I mean, just like any other politician does with their politicians.
When you say issues, you mean political issues?
Political, personal, sports. I mean, I don't know. Whatever it could be.
You guys get together and watch sports together?
No.
Have you ever been to his house?
Nope.
You were on vacation or anything with him?
No.
All right. Did you communicate with Randy Fine during the summer of 2022?
I can't remember that. I mean,
Do you use your personal cell phone to communicate with
when I
Randy
talk
Fine?
to him, yes.
Just make sure to wait till her
I
question's over.
apologize.
I'm bad about it too. It's not all you.
Yeah, I can't admonish her. I
Yeah.
can admonish you.
You can tell me. I'm sorry.
Did you and Randy Fine talk about a sexual assault related to Johnson Middle School?
I can't remember. Possibly. I don't remember that. There was a lot that was going on during that time.
You know what I'm referring to? Right.
Yes.
Okay, just to make sure we're on the same page. At some point, Randy Fine alleged that there was a transgender child that had sexually assaulted another child at a Johnson Middle County,
Yes.
Johnson Middle School, excuse me. I said
Yes.
Johnson County, Johnson Middle School. And I believe that you made public comments about that. Do you recall?
Okay. I don't remember, but if you have them,
Okay.
I don't remember comments from back then.
Where would you have gotten information about that allegation?
About the Johnson Middle School allegation?
Yeah.
The Johnson Middle School allegation was brought up from somebody else prior, but not Randy Fine. I went to Dr. Mullins and told him about it in July. And I said, this is something that's going on.
In
And
July
I-
of 22?
Yep, I remember that. And I told him, I said, hey, there's something you need to put on your radar. There's something that's being said. There's things coming up in the community. And I told him that day.
Okay. Did you tell Randy Fine?
No, I didn't tell Randy Fine that.
Okay. You're aware that Randy Fine made a whole bunch of social media posts about the Johnson Middle School allegation, correct?
He's quoted saying that he got that information from Katie Delaney.
Okay. So let me, who now employs Katie Delaney? Is that you?
I don't know. I've
Mr. Fine employ Katie
No.
Delaney?
No, I do not employ Katie Delaney.
Who is Katie Delaney?
A friend, a person that works in the community. I don't know what that question is.
Try to speak up for the court
I
reporter,
know.
please. The deponent?
Yes, please. Take a look at that exhibit 9. And let me know when you've had an opportunity to review it.
It's a newspaper article.
Okay. I want to direct your attention, I think, to the 3rd page. Actually, hand it back to me. Let me point it out to you.
Can you just state for the record how many pages are in there?
Yes. For the record, this is Plaintiff's Exhibit 9. It is a 5-page deposit document. And would you agree, Mr. Susan, that it is a Florida Today article?
Seems that way, yes.
Okay. And the title is Melbourne Police Call Report of Sexual Assault by Transgendered Student at School Unfounded.
Yes,
Okay. And the reporters are Finch Walker and Bailey Galian.
sure.
Okay. And you admitted previously that you did have communications with Bailey Galian. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
Okay. On your personal cell phone?
Absolutely.
Okay. Now, on page 3, I'm gonna pull out this paragraph there that I've got my finger on. Paragraph that starts with Fine said a group of parents. Do you see that? Okay. Will you read that paragraph out loud?
Fine said a group of parents had come to him with concerns about the incident, saying that he believed the information had been given to them by a current school board member. Though he said he did not know which board member gave the information, he suggested police reach out to Matt Susan because Johnson Middle School is in Susan's district.
Okay. So, did you have communications with Randy Fine about the Johnson Middle School allegation?
Have I ever had conversations with him? Not prior to this breaking. No, I had not had prior. Not at all.
Why would he refer people to you if they had questions?
Because if there's any, and I've said this multiple times to both him and other people, that if they have issues with anything inside the school board, that they can come to me, and then I would vet them and bring them to Dr. Mullins at the time. It's
Okay.
proper process. It's what we always do. So if you have an incident that occurs, or there's an issue, it's inside of our governing procedures and everything else.
You're the only one that is supposed to forward information over to Dr. Mullins?
No, this is my school, so it'd be appropriate that if somebody was there, that they would bring it to me.
Okay, all right. Can you give that to the court reporter, please? Is Katie Delaney employed by Mark III Insurance?
No, she's not currently.
Has she been in the past?
She was for about a week or two.
And Mark III Insurance is your
Who
business?
I worked for too, yes.
Do you work for them as well now?
No, I do not.
Did you have ownership in that business?
No, I did not.
All right. So, do you recognize Exhibit 10? Let me hand it to your counsel first. I'm not gonna ask you questions about the contents, I'm gonna ask you questions about the date, so, with that, let me know when you're ready.
Go ahead.
Okay, do you recognize that there appears to be an email posted by Randy Fine, is that correct?
I guess it's an email. So it looks like a social media post. It doesn't look like an
I mean,
email.
I'm
It
sorry,
looks like
I meant social media post.
Okay.
That appears to be specifically a Facebook post by Randy Fine, would you agree?
Yes.
Okay. And does it pertain to the Johnson Middle School allegations?
You just jumped into it. You told me don't worry about the
Okay.
content. Now you're asking me
Apologies.
about the content, so hang on. Department of Media Assistant. Okay, there. He's speaking to Johnson Middle School there, yes.
All right, what's the date of that?
August 11th.
Okay, of 2022?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Is that a yes?
Yes,
Okay,
sorry.
you can give that to the court reporter, please. All right, we talked about earlier how after this lawsuit was filed, you recall being with Mr. Gibbs, even though you don't know where it was, and pulling down your phone logs and providing them to Mr. Mora. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Just note that's an errant unmarked at the top right.
Yeah.
Okay.
You've been handed a 2-page document marked Exhibit 11. Take a look at that and let me know when you're ready.
Okay, I'm ready.
Okay, do you recognize that document?
Yes, this is what I provided to Mr. Mora.
Okay. So my question is, that appears to be an Excel spreadsheet that someone created. Do you know who created it?
That was, those cells and all of that comes directly from the call log.
But who created the Excel spreadsheet?
Oh, the call log company created these cells, yeah.
Okay,
And then,
but that's not the exact record from the cell phone company, correct?
no, this is a combination of the request that was from there. It was,
Okay, but somebody took information from the original downloaded bills, or whatever we want to call them,
Yeah.
and put it into that
yep,
exhibit, is that correct?
yep, to identify all the public records requests for 23-156 and 23-223. I guess that was what it was pertaining to.
Right, so when someone creates a spreadsheet, they're taking information from a document and they're putting it into Excel or whatever they use. Do you know who did that?
This was made by me.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So you made that exhibit, plaintiff's 11,
Yep,
and you provided that to Mr. Mora?
yes,
Okay, and you made that using the original downloaded records?
yes.
Okay. Did you give the original downloaded records to Mr. Mora as well?
I think, yeah, it was, yep,
Is that a yes?
yes,
Okay. Do you see that, so that's a fair and accurate copy of the document that you gave Mr. Moore, is that correct?
yeah, yes.
Okay, all right, so I'll direct your attention to the top of it. Does it indicate that you had communications with Randy Fine at the top?
Yes, on 8/11 and 8/12,
Okay.
3 calls.
So on 8/11, what is the total time that you spoke to Randy Fine?
8 minutes and 25 minutes.
Is there a 17 minutes as well?
There's one on the 12th,
Oh, that's on the 12th.
Mhm.
Okay. So
Yep.
on the 11th, you spoke to him for 8 minutes, and then what was the other thing?
25 minutes.
Okay. And would you agree with me that 8/11 was the same date as Randy's post in Exhibit 10?
Absolutely, they're the same date.
Okay. And so on 8/11, you didn't communicate with Randy Fine about the Johnson Middle School allegations?
I may or may not have discussed it with them. It may or may not have been on here. I'm not sure. These records don't reflect that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh.
Sorry.
That's-
Are you okay? Oh.
Okay. So as you sit here today, it's possible that you talked to Randy Fine about the Johnson Middle School incident on 8/11.
Absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely. Can you give me the date range on that public records request 23-156? I think you have it in front of you.
I
Or
think
is
it's
it here?
actually
Just wanted to make sure.
here, handed.
It's not a big deal. I don't really
No.
care. I just wanted to know.
I think since we divided this one into two, I think we got that in the
It's not that big of a deal.
Directing your attention to Exhibit 1, page 2, that pertains to Ms. Jenkins. We've already established Public Records Request 23-156. What was the range of that request, the date range?
June 1st to present day. That's consistent. Yep.
Yeah,
That's
and
right.
the present day date was what, August 12th?
I think so. I didn't look at that. And so I wanted to look at something else too. Oh, it doesn't have the time. No, I was just checking on some stuff. This is the first time I'm seeing some of these
Okay,
things, so
well,
I just was trying to look at it for myself.
Let's make sure the question is answered.
It is. Consistent. I may or may not have spoken to him.
Ms.
already.
Jenkins' public records request was from June 1st of 2022 to present day, and she
Yep.
sent that request on August 2nd.
Yeah.
Okay, you agree with that?
Yeah.
Okay, sure. So that's why you included that information in that spreadsheet that you created, Exhibit 11,
I was
correct?
asked to provide any calls between myself and Randy Fine. That's what this was. Not that it says that I talked to him about specific issues. Or
Right,
anything.
right. Okay, but that's why you put that information in there, because it fell within the date range?
Yep.
Okay. Now, we've already gone over a article, the Florida Today article that mentions that there was an investigation done and then that allegation was unfounded. Are you aware
Yep.
of that?
Oh, I am. Yes.
Are you aware of another allegation involving Space Coast Middle School?
Mm-hmm.
Is
Yep.
that a yes?
Yes.
Okay. Did you go public about that as well?
Or you can answer.
No.
Did you personally, in your capacity as a school board member, ever take any steps to investigate these claims, these
Yeah.
allegations?
Form, you can answer.
In what capacity? We investigate everything, and we were always asked
Did you
to
talk-
look into like any allegations that happen, were to get them and pass them off to the proper entities. Yeah.
Okay, did you talk to any of the principals of the schools?
I did not speak to the principal of Space Coast. I'm not sure until after. I can't remember that for Ms. Middleton. I'm not sure.
Did you talk to Johnson County? Oh, excuse me, I used to live in Johnson County, I'm gonna say that
It's
forever.
fine.
Johnson Middle School, did you talk to that principal?
Form, you can answer.
I may or may not have. I don't know. But it was not in a capacity of an investigative way.
Did you talk to the SROs of either school?
Form, you can answer.
I may or may not have. I can't remember right now.
But you talked to Bailey Gallion about
No
the
con-
Johnson
No
Middle
content.
School.
No content.
Just let her finish the question, sorry.
You talked to Bailey Gallion about the Johnson Middle School allegations, didn't you?
No allegation, student information, or anything has ever been provided to Bailey Gallion, Randy Fine, or anything.
That's
ever.
not my question. My question is, you talked to Bailey Gallion about the Johnson Middle School allegations, didn't you?
I'm sure those kind of conversations came up, but I can't have those in front of me. If she asked me, I would never give any kind of personal information of any child or
That's not
anything.
my question. You've been handed, for the record, Plaintiff's Exhibit 13. How many pages is that?
This was the other written thing. I think it's 4.
4 pages? Okay, will you review that and let me know when you're ready for questions?
Sorry, Jessica, while he's doing that, we went from 11 to 13, right? Did I miss 12?
No,
Okay, I just wanted to make sure. I
Yeah.
didn't think so, but
we're jumping around.
yeah, I know we've been doing that. I just want to make sure.
I mean, I'm here. I can look at it to what you ask.
Okay, do you see, I have a little sticky there to the left. What's the date of that article first?
August 19th.
Okay, what is the title?
Transgender sexual assault claims at Brevard Public Schools could bring new state rules.
Okay. And there is a sticky on one of the pages, and there is a portion that starts with school board member Matt Susin said he. Do you see that?
Yep.
Will you read that?
School board member Matt Susin said he has been in daily contact with the Florida Department of Education about an investigation into the allegations which became public last week when State Representative Randy Fine sent a letter to Florida Education Commissioner Manny Diaz repeating the claims of transgender bathroom assault over the summer at Johnson Middle School.
All right. Now, is this article written by Bailey Galen?
That's what it says, yes.
Okay. And where would she have gotten the information that you were in daily contact with the Florida Department of Education? From you?
I'm not sure, possibly.
Okay. Were you in daily contact with the Florida Department of Education?
I can't speak to that. I did speak to the Department of Education, though, about this investigation.
Okay. When did you do that? Do you think that was relative to the time of this investigation and everything? At the time it was going on, you spoke to the Florida Department of Education?
I'm assuming it would have been between the time it broke and the time that this article was here, so sometime between there.
Okay. Would you agree it broke around August 11th of 22, which is when Randy Fine first made his social media
What it
post?
seems to be,
Okay. And so that article is dated
this one's dated August 19th.
August 19th. Okay. Now, I'm going to show you Exhibit 3.
Thank you.
Do you recognize Exhibit 3?
Yep,
Does it appear to pertain to a public records request by Ms. Jenkins?
it does.
What's the public records request number there?
That's not enough there. Just a second. It'd be 23-222. They're on separate pages, but I'm assuming that that's what it is.
Okay. Will you read the public records request?
I'd like to request all phone calls and text messages to and from between Matt Susan and Bailey Gallion, reporter at Florida Today, from the date range June 1st to present day on both business and personal communicative devices.
Okay. Is that why you included in Plaintiff's Exhibit 11? Do you still have that in front of you?
I do not.
You still have the spreadsheet that you created for Mr. Moore in front of you? Maybe I said
I
the
do,
wrong
I
exhibit
do.
number. Okay.
I did.
Yeah, okay, there it is, Exhibit 11.
Mhm.
Is Exhibit 3 the reason why you included a particular date range and information on Exhibit 11?
I was asked to provide all call logs between a specific date range, and I did.
Okay, and does it match the date range in Exhibit 3?
June 1st. I'm assuming.
Okay. Well, you have them in front of you, does it match or not?
Yeah, I mean, they match. These calls are within that date range, yes.
Okay, all right, so you can flip that over. Flip the reporter.
Oh.
Just so I'm confused. I'm gonna hand you what's previously been discussed as plaintiff's exhibit 2. What is the date, public record number, and read the request into
August
the record.
19th, I am requesting the call log of calls made to the Florida Department of FWOE made by Mr. Susin from both personal and or district issued phones.
And what's the date range? Did I miss it?
It doesn't have a date range, it just says all of them.
You might say that on the next page. See on page 2 there was a request for a date range and one was given.
No. Okay. Yeah, these are all out of order. These go from like bottom up, down. They're here, but they're talking to, do you want to give a time frame, please? Is there a specific phone number at the FDOE you had in mind? That's her clarification that you
And
had.
what was the date range that was
Yes.
ultimately clarified?
Sorry, yes, June 21st to present.
Okay, what's the date again?
June 21st to present.
What's the date of the request?
August 19th.
Okay. So here's my question. This article, Exhibit 13, says that you were in daily contact with the Florida Department of Education. And you indicated earlier that you probably were in contact with the Florida Department of Education between the date that Randy Fine, August 11th, made his social media post until the date of that article, which is dated what again? What's
This
the date of-
article here was August 19th.
Okay. And we have a public records request from Ms. Jenkins that would cover that time frame between Randy Fine's allegations and the date of that article. But yet you have not produced any records from the Florida Department of Education or communication with the Florida Department of Education. How do you reconcile the fact that that article says that you were in contact with them, but you have not put anything in Exhibit 11 to indicate that you were?
It must have been that the contact was outside of my personal cell phone.
Okay. What else would you have used to contact the Florida Department of Education?
All the phone lines at the school district, phone lines in every other place in the world that have phones. I just didn't have calls on my personal phone log.
Why would you use another phone?
I use those phones a lot because I don't have good cell phone coverage inside the school district, so if I'm in there, I use those real quick.
Okay, do you recall who you talked to at the Florida Department of
No,
Education?
it was some staffers.
Do you know how many times you did talk to them?
A couple of times, I think 2-3 times.
Okay. Did you get the case number for the Space Coast allegation from
Well, I
VCSO?
Form, you can answer.
I requested all information related to the case.
So you think you would have had the case number?
Absolutely.
Did you give that case number to Randy Fine?
No.
Okay. Do you have any explanation about how Randy Fine would have known to go look at that investigation file on August 15th of 22?
No.
Okay. Flip those over so you don't get them confused, please.
All three or just the?
All three. We're done with all three. How did you find out that, I think both of those allegations, the transgender assault and then the Space Coast assault, ended up being unfounded after they were investigated by the authorities?
Okay.
How did you find out that they were unfounded?
Well, I don't remember how I found out they were unfounded. I don't. I mean, I'm sure it was in an email or told or something like that. I'm not sure. I don't remember.
Were you ever aware of a cover-up by Brevard Public School System of either of these events?
Form, you can answer.
No, I do not know of a cover-up.
Okay, you know that Randy Fine alleged that there was a cover-up.
If Randy Fine did, I don't know anything about it.
Randy, I'm sorry.
If Randy Fine did, I don't know anything about it.
Okay. You didn't tell Randy Fine there was a cover-up?
No.
All right. All right, before we go into Exhibit 4, which you've been handed, let me ask a question clarifying. Did Katie Delaney tell you about the Johnson Middle School?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Do you know if she's the one that told Randy Fine?
I think it was said in Florida Today or somewhere. There's a news post that she told him about the Johnson Middle School. Yes.
Okay, so you think the first person you heard it from was Katie Delaney?
I know for a fact it was.
Okay.
Because I immediately called Mullins in the middle of June to tell him.
All right.
Or July.
Okay. All right, so you have before you Exhibit 4. It is what, how many pages?
3.
Okay, and can you tell me what the date of the public record request is and read it into the record, please?
November 22nd, 2022.
Okay, will you read the request into the record?
I am requesting all communication, including text, email, and phone call logs received and sent to BCSO from Matt Susin on both business and or personal cell phones from August 1st to 2022 to August 18th, 2022.
Do you see a response from the records department indicating, quote, "I've been advised there's no responsive documents to these requests"?
Bless you.
It says there's phone logs available for the district phone. Some of the material you requested does not exist, and therefore we have no records responsive to your request.
Okay. Now, going back to Exhibit 11, the last of that list.
This one?
Stack there, yeah, take that.
Okay.
So Exhibit 4 said that there's no responsive records, but would you agree that referring to the PRR number, that in the spreadsheet that you created for Mr. Mora, you did in fact list some communications?
Form, you can answer.
Yes, right here. Yeah.
Okay. Where would the records department have gotten the information that there was no responsive records? From you?
More than likely, yes.
Okay. Then why did you, how do you reconcile the fact that you told the records department there was no responsive records, but you've included them on Exhibit 11?
Form, I just wish to document that this was not made as part of a public records request.
Okay, it's
Go on.
documented.
Go ahead.
These may or may not be records for public records, and these are not definitively a public record.
Okay. So you provided them out of an abundance of caution. You listed them on Exhibit 11?
I was asked to provide any calls to BCSO, period.
Okay,
I did that.
okay. Do you ever call BCSO for a game of golf or to hang out or go to lunch?
Absolutely.
Okay. Who do you call to do that stuff with?
The sheriff, I call Major Neal, I call about all kinds of variety of issues with a lot of the BCSO families.
The BCSO calls that you provided in Exhibit 11, They range from August 11th to August 15th. Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay. Are you aware that BCSO provided some records in response to an almost identical records request from Ms. Jenkins?
I'm sure they did. I don't know.
Are you aware of that as you sit here today?
I don't know. I think there was one. I'm not sure. I don't have that in front of me.
Okay. Was there also some sort of press conference in that time frame that you did with the sheriff out in front of the jail?
I'm not sure to that date. It seems that was in November. This is in August.
Okay. Let me see 4, please. But you think your records request, in Exhibit 4, would you agree with me that's a records request from Ms. Jenkins dated in November? Is that correct?
November 25th,
Okay.
2022.
And is that for the records with BCSO?
Yes, BCSO from August 1st to August 18th.
Okay. And that's around the time frame that you did that press conference out in front of the jail?
No, let me restate. November 2022 was when we did the press conference. This is related to August of 2022.
Let me see. Let's see. Okay. Now, let me show you Exhibit 5.
Thank you. Pardon me.
And I'll show you 6 at the same time. Because
Do you want me to give it to the deponent at the same time?
we'll question about both of them at the same time. 11 could be flipped over. Let me know when you're ready for questions.
Go ahead.
Okay. Exhibit 5. Do you see the public records request from Ms. Jenkins in that document? Can you read it and give us the date?
Sorry.
There's a public records request here, but it's half and it's not complete. It's not, it just stops.
Give it to me.
Not sure if there's more to it. Or...
Just
No. Read this paragraph right there, please.
I would like to request all phone calls, texts, and or emails between John Tobiah and Matt Susin for the date range of 3/1 to present day regarding any communication about school board and school board redistricting.
What's the date of that? Is it June 1st?
June 1st.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Now, did you,
It's also reflective in Exhibit 6 too. I think it's the same.
just
What-
stay on one exhibit
Yeah,
at a time.
yeah.
Just stay on the question.
let's just
asked.
focus on Exhibit 5. So, did you become aware that John Tobiah had received an almost identical public records request to that one
When?
on July 11th?
I was aware he received a public records request.
Okay.
Yes.
How did you become aware?
I can't remember what it was. I can't
Was it
can't
during
speak to
a
that.
Was it during a July 11th, 23 board meeting when Ms. Jenkins complained about how long it had taken you to respond and mentioned that Mr. Tobiah responded in one day?
It may have. I'm not sure. I did know that there was one, but that may or may not have been the time that I found out.
Okay. Do you contest, because I have it on video if we need to play it, but do you contest that she mentioned that during a school board meeting of July 11th of 23?
No, I wouldn't contest that if you have a video of it.
Okay. So, do you think that you knew prior to July 11th of 23 that she had made a public records request to John Tobias?
That I can't speak to.
Did you go to John Tobias and ask him what he had produced in response to that public records request?
I may have asked him to tell me what he produced to make sure that what was on mine was the same. Yes.
Okay. And just to be clear, I don't know, did we read the number? Will you read the number into the record?
There's no public records. Okay, 23904.
Okay, 23904. Okay. So you might have spoken to him about what he produced. Did you do it after the July 11th board meeting or before?
I don't remember that.
How did you talk to him?
I'm not sure. I don't have recollections of that. I don't.
Okay. Did you ask him to send a copy of what he had provided?
No.
Did he send you a copy of what he had given over?
Send me a copy, what do you mean?
Did he send you a copy of his response to that public records request for that same?
I'm not sure what you mean. What do you mean by that?
Well, John
I'm not
Tobias
sure.
received a identical public records request to that one that you're touching there dated June 1st.
Okay.
Okay, and you indicated that you might have talked to him
Yep.
about what he provided in response. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
Did he provide you a copy of what he provided in response?
I can't remember if he did or he didn't. I'm not sure.
How did you communicate with John Tobias about that?
I can't remember if it was in person, on the phone, if it was anywhere. I can't remember.
Did you go talk to him directly after the July 11th, 23 meeting?
Speak to him directly after.
Did you go talk to John Tobias in person after a school board meeting?
Not that I know of. I don't know, July 11th.
Did you state at the July 11th, 23 school board meeting that you had not had time to respond to that public records request that we're referring to?
Say that again?
So, that public records request is 23904, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and it was made on June 1st
Okay.
of 23, is that correct?
It says June 5th here. It says June 5th records request.
The bottom of page 1, what is the date of Ms. Jenkins'
She
email?
responds just following up on the event. She
She's
says,
asking to look on the front page.
oh, the front page.
Bottom there, wherever her public records request is, what's that date?
She requests on June 1st.
Okay, all right. Did you ever state during a board meeting in July that you hadn't had time to respond to that public records request?
I'm not sure. I don't know. I don't
If I had it on video, you wouldn't contest it, would you?
Well, if you want to show it to me, if you have it, then I would, but I don't know. I can't speak to it.
All right, I'm gonna mark this. When we're done, I'll mark this as exhibit 24. It's a thumb drive. I'm gonna play a few seconds of this to see if you recognize what it is, and then we'll fast forward.
Is it 24?
Yes.
Thank you.
far as the community with the
collect shoes to just hand.
All right, let me pause it there. Do you recognize this to be a recording of the school board meeting on July 11th of
Yep.
2023?
Seems that way, yes.
Okay. All right, I'm gonna fast forward to 2 hours and 11 minutes. Two hours, 11 minutes, and 26 seconds.
But everything to the voters of regard, and I think we did that in this instance.
Thank you. Ms. Jenkins, you were wanting to speak?
So I just want to remind you that my requests are also public record. And the date range was from the beginning of March until present day. It's a very, very wide date range while we were having all of these discussions. And you mentioned multiple times having conversations with those individuals. Mr. Tobias' office responded in hours. You've had it for 35 days. So, talk about transparency. I'm open and honest, and it's a public record. Here's what I'm uncomfortable with. I'm uncomfortable with this being thrown on the agenda the way it was thrown on, because quite frankly, I don't know why we're voting on a board discussion when we have a board discussion section on the agenda. So that makes no sense to me. And I appreciate you, Ms. Kimball, being very specific about.
Ms. Jenkins is telling me I've got the wrong time on here. Let me fix that. I'm gonna try this time frame, which is 2 hours, 4 minutes, and 16 seconds.
I am willing to authorize.
Can you repeat that time, Mark?
2 hours, 4 minutes, and 16 seconds.
Superintendent to put out half of the cost of the mailing.
All right, thank you. So a couple of things that I'd like to point out. There were some allegations of impropriety by one of our school board members, and I'd like to address that. The first one is that I received 2 personal public records requests for all communications between myself and John Tobias, who's the county commissioner, and myself and the supervisor of elections, Tim Babonic. And the first one, the one with Tim Babonic, based upon the date range that it was, returned no responsive documents. The second one with John Tobias, I have not had a chance to respond to yet, so I'd like to clarify the fact that there's some false allegations that were made. The other component of it is that we have a argument over this reserves. That was a portion of me misspeaking because I thought that the Constitution.
Okay, I think that.
And go back to the original one that you had put up there and play it.
Well, my question is about this portion.
Oh, okay.
Okay, my question is first about this portion. This is on July 11th of 23, and you're indicating that you haven't had time to respond to Ms. Jenkins' prior public records request. Would you agree?
Seems that way, yes.
Okay. Now, I believe we're going to fast forward now to, what did I have? To where we were, which was
That was 2 hours,
2
11
hours,
minutes, and
11
20
minutes.
seconds.
Yeah.
26 seconds.
Good. I think this was the agenda item related to.
There's no question, Ben.
Okay.
We owe nothing but everything to the voters of regard, and I think we did that in this instance.
Thank you. Ms. Jenkins, you were wanting to speak?
So I just want to remind you that my requests are also public record. And the date range was from the beginning of March until present day. It's a very, very wide date range while we were having all of these discussions. And you mentioned multiple times having conversations with those individuals. Mr. Tobias' office responded in hours. You've had it for 35 days. So, talk about transparency. I'm open and honest, and it's a public record. Here's what I'm uncomfortable with. I'm uncomfortable with this being thrown on the agenda the way it was thrown.
So that, she said that at the July 11th, 23 meeting. Was that the first time that you knew John Tobias' office had responded in hours?
I don't know. I can't recall that.
Okay, did you go talk to John Tobias or his office after that meeting?
I can't recall that.
Okay. You said he might have provided you whatever he gave in response. Was it after this meeting?
You're asking me what he said?
No. Earlier I asked you if John Tobias gave you what he had provided.
Yeah, I can't remember him doing that, no.
You didn't walk over to the county commission offices after this meeting to talk to John Tobias?
I can't remember if I did.
Now, the other, well, actually, I think, did you provide records in response to the public records request in Exhibit 5?
Form.
Okay. So in 5,
Let me ask it this way. Did you give Mr. Quick some records in response to the public records request in Exhibit 5?
I'm sure I did.
Okay, and where did you get those records from?
He's asking me to request all phone log calls. I'm assuming my phone. I don't know. I don't have it in front of me. I don't have my response in front of me.
Okay, do you know when you provided those records to Mr. Quick?
No, I don't.
Do you recall if it was after this meeting?
It must have been if she's saying that I did not provide them.
Okay, all right, let's go to the other exhibit that you have in front of you. That's Exhibit 6. Review that, please, and identify the public records request by Ms. Jenkins. Read that and give us the date and the public records request number on 6.
I'd like to request all communication, phone, text, and email between to and from Matt, Susan, and John Tobias for the date range June 1st to present day,
What's the date?
August 2nd, 2023.
And was that ultimately assigned public records request number 24-176?
Yes.
Do you know if you provided any records in response to that?
I'm assuming I did. I don't have them in front of me right now.
Okay. Well, if Mr. Quick advised that there was no responsive, there are no documents responsive to this request. Do you know if you provided any records or not?
I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't have my public records requests and responses in front of me. I don't.
Okay. Are you aware that Mr. Tobias has provided a response to that almost identical public records request?
So there's 2 public records requests that are identical to Mr. Tobias, is what you're
Yeah.
saying. There's one
So Ms.
here
Jenkins
and here.
Yeah, let me
Okay.
clarify. Ms. Jenkins sent you and Mr. Tobias
Mm-hmm.
identical public records requests that are reflected in Exhibit 5 and 6.
2 separate times.
Yes.
Okay.
Were you aware that Mr. Tobias already responded to both of those?
I was not aware. I don't know when he had. I was not on his communications when he did that.
Right. Okay, yeah. 5 and 6 are not identical to each other. They're 2 different requests.
That's
You
what I was
understand that?
making
Okay,
sure.
all right.
There's been so many of them.
Okay. All right, you can flip those over then. You mentioned earlier, and I think it is captured in a recording of one of the board meetings, that you asked for an opinion from the Attorney General's office. Is that correct? Okay.
I didn't ask for it. Mr. Paul Gibbs did.
But you didn't ask for it to be done during a meeting?
I may have, but I wasn't the one that made the request to the Attorney General.
Okay.
Paul did. I didn't.
Ultimately, an
draft it.
opinion was not given by the Attorney General's office. Is that correct?
I'm assuming so. That's what I think I recollect. Yep.
Okay. You haven't seen one, have you?
I have not seen one, no.
Okay. And that request for an AG opinion came after a memorandum by Mr. Quick. Would you agree?
I'm not sure.
You can answer.
I'm not sure the date range.
Okay. Let me show you this.
Thank you, ma'am.
Look at that document. Let me know when you're ready for questions.
Go ahead.
Okay. Do you recognize that document?
I'm assuming it's a document from John Crick to Paul Gibbs. We had one of these come through. Looks the same, yes.
Okay. So the exhibit number is what?
15.
Okay. How many pages is it?
6.
Okay, 6 pages. Would you agree with me that it's a memorandum from John Quick to Mr. Gibbs, like you just referenced?
It seems that way, yes.
What is the date?
October 28th,
Of,
2022.
okay. And what is addressed in that memorandum? Can you summarize it?
It says, overview, public records provides a right of access to records of the state and local governments as well as access to records of private entities. It goes on to talk about Public Records Act, Chapter 119.
Okay. And so this was done after Ms. Jenkins had made some public records requests for your records. Is that correct?
I'm assuming because we've had, to this point, probably about 13 of them at that point.
13 what?
Public records requests.
Okay.
So I'm assuming that anything she's done, there was a lot.
Okay. And so you have seen this document or you have not? Before today?
I can't remember, but I do remember a document like this being sent to us, and I do remember the content of it being related to public records, absolutely.
Okay. Will you look at the last paragraph, please?
Okay.
I think it's the last paragraph that starts out with, to the extent that any phone.
Second consideration was given to the portion of the heading, the holding in Shevin.
Okay, no, not,
Oh, I'm sorry, there's another page, I apologize.
does the last paragraph start out with quote, to the extent that any phone records?
Should the phone records contain a mix of both public and private calls, all private calls should be redacted from the record and produced accordingly.
Okay. So were you aware that that was Mr. Quick's opinion back in October of 22?
I was aware that he had given us an opinion that was related to us saying that the public records would be, call logs in some way, shape, or form are a part of public record based on some of this stuff. I can't say that I memorized this whole thing, but yes.
Okay. But even after that opinion was given by Mr. Quick, you did not produce the phone logs. Is that accurate?
We asked for another opinion from a higher source, whether that was a court, whether that was the Attorney General and others, because you had this case law, you had the other case law from the stuff that I had submitted, and it just seemed like we needed a higher court opinion.
Okay, but Mr. Quick discusses a case law that you had submitted in that memorandum. Would you agree?
I didn't know he did. I didn't know he
Well,
actually.
do you see that the Shevin case is one of the cases that you quoted in that information that you got from somebody?
Okay.
Do you see that in the memorandum?
It says Shevin, yes.
Yeah, okay, and then I think it's Nissan or Nissan case. That's discussed in that memorandum by Mr. Quick. Would you agree?
Form. You can answer.
Yeah, I suppose it's here.
Okay.
Any attorney can give an opinion based on what their feelings are on case law and counter anything that we put together, absolutely.
Right. So Mr. Quick was brought in to play like an intermediary, right? Why
For
was
the public records request.
Okay,
Yes.
yeah, okay. So you had produced some case law that we went over earlier in your email.
Yep.
You don't recall where you got it, but you thought it was relevant to Ms. Jenkins' public records request for your personal cell phone logs, correct?
It's not related. That case was not related. That information was not related to mine. That was
No,
related to...
relevant. If I said related, I meant to say relevant. You thought that those cases were relevant to Ms. Jenkins' public records request for your personal cell phone logs.
When I presented why I did not think that they were public records in that entity, yes, at that time.
Okay, all right.
That
So
was, yeah.
then Mr. Quick gave his opinion in October, is that correct?
Yes,
And according to what you just read, he indicated that he thought that the record should be turned over.
yep,
Okay. You then, during a meeting, asked for Mr. Gibbs to get an attorney general opinion. Is that correct?
any higher authority.
Okay, because you weren't, you weren't satisfied with this opinion by Mr. Quick?
No, just the fact that attorneys can have different varying opinions. This is something that wasn't stated in case law, nor is there statutory law wrapped around it. So what we did was we said, okay, I'd like to have an opinion of a higher court.
Okay, how many opinions were you gonna get before you decided that you needed to give over the records?
Or you can answer.
The request is to get somebody more than any attorney, which if you asked 5 of them, they might give you 5 different answers.
Yeah, but Mr. Quick was hired by the board, right?
He was hired by the board to be an intermediary between our public records. He was not hired by the board in order to give us opinions based on all of these things.
But didn't he get paid to give that opinion?
Yes, absolutely.
By the board,
Mhm.
right?
Well, yes, by Mr. Gibbs and the board.
Okay. You don't think that Mr. Quick has any personal bias against you or anything, do you?
No, I just don't think that he has the authority to give the absolute opinion on whether these are or not public records.
Okay, what if the Attorney General's office had told you that you had to give over the records? Would you have done it?
Absolutely.
No, but there's no Attorney General opinion given, right?
No, but in many cases, you ask the Attorney General for opinions, and that's where I thought the best place to go was at the time.
So during the board meeting where you asked for the Attorney General opinion, you were the one that asked Mr. Gibbs to get that, right? It wasn't anybody else.
No, I asked for a majority of the board to agree because I didn't have the authority as an individual. The majority agreed to go to to ask the Attorney General.
Do you know why an Attorney General opinion wasn't issued?
During the request, it has to make like a certain type of, there has to be a checkbox of things. It didn't checkbox one of those things.
Was it that there has to be no other pending cases that might already decide this?
That I'm not sure about. I don't know.
Okay. Were you aware that there was a case against Governor DeSantis that actually was on this issue?
Yeah, but they're not similar and they're different in many ways. They're similar, but they're not. So I wouldn't know if the Attorney General could say that they were not together.
How are you aware of the DeSantis cases?
Because when I searched for cases related to public records, it came up.
How did you search for records?
Google.
Okay. All right. Did anybody email or send you the DeSantis cases?
No. Not that I know of.
Did you ever talk to Pat Gleason about whether or not phone logs were public records?
Miss Gleason is in Tallahassee. I've spoken to her multiple times about public records issues because she is the author of the Sunshine and Violations and everything else. She is the person up there, yes.
Okay, so did she tell you not to give over the phone logs?
She did not give me an opinion, and I think it was her that had asked. Somebody who had given me the idea of the Attorney General. I can't remember. I don't remember my conversations with Miss Gleason, but there was no definitive answer. And she's not anybody that would, even though she was the author of it, and could give intent. I don't, just like Mr. Wise or Mr. Quick, there's no definitive answer.
So did she give you an opinion?
I can't remember. She did not handwrite anything or type anything.
So has anybody encouraged you to provide the phone logs?
Form.
Yeah,
You can answer.
I don't know what you mean. I don't know
Any-
anybody like.
Anybody on the board, any attorneys, we've already talked about Mr. Quick's opinion, but anybody else encouraged you to turn over the,
Not that I know of, I don't,
Form, you can answer.
sorry.
Let her finish her question,
Yeah.
please.
Not that I know of.
Mr. Gibbs hasn't encouraged you to turn over the
I
phone
don't think
logs?
I don't think,
Let her finish. Sorry.
it's okay, I apologize.
That's all good.
Mr. Gibbs hasn't encouraged you to turn over the phone logs?
Not to my recollection, I don't, this memorandum came out, which he asked for, but I don't know if he did.
After that memorandum came out, nobody encouraged you to turn over the phone logs?
Form, you can answer.
He may have, this was sent to me, which is what we went out for, and it brought back, and he may have, I don't know.
Okay. So, just to clarify, you're not saying that all communications involving your cell phone aren't public records. You're just saying that the phone logs aren't public records. Is that your argument?
That my phone logs are not public records, yes,
Okay.
yes.
And they're not public records because why?
Because you can't,
Form, you can answer.
because you can't definitively look and say they are or are not public records by looking at them.
Why? Why? Because you can't tell the contents or the nature of the phone call?
Form, you can answer.
This does not tell me in any way, shape, or form if this is a public record or not.
Okay, but you yourself can't look back and go, hey, I know I talked to Randy Fine on August 11th of 22 about these transgender sex assault allegations, so I better include those phone logs as a matter of, caution. You can't do that yourself?
Form, you can answer.
I would never put anything together unless I knew that it was either close or that it was definitively something that was spoke to. I can't find that on here.
Okay, so you think it's better to exclude or not provide documents if you're not sure rather than to over-provide
No,
documents?
that's not.
Form, you can answer.
That is not what I said.
Okay, what are you saying then?
I am saying that there is no way to tell that this is or is not a
Well,
public record.
wouldn't your memory tell you what you probably talked to people about on particular dates,
Form, you can answer.
You're asking me
right?
to go back a year and a couple of months
Well,
to find out if I did or did not speak to people or not. I'm telling you that it does not definitively tell me that.
now, what I'm asking you is, at the time that you get this public records request, these first two being between you and Randy Fine, and they are made on August 12th of 22 and August 19th of 22. And we've already established that these Johnson Middle School allegations first came to light on August 11th, the day before the first public records request from Ms. Jenkins. So you're telling me at the time that she requests phone logs between you and Randy Fine, which we know you talked to him on August 11th because you produced that spreadsheet there, Exhibit 11. You're telling me that one day later you can't recollect what you might have talked to Randy Fine about and then produce those phone logs?
What are you saying?
Form, you can answer.
Can you explain one day later?
Well, August 11th, Randy Fine goes public with the Johnson Middle School allegations, right?
Mhm.
So yes?
Yes.
Okay. August 11th, you have two phone calls with Randy Fine as you produced in Exhibit 11, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Miss Jenkins' public records request is one day later, August 12th.
Okay.
You're telling me that a lapse of one day is so great that you can't recall what you might have talked to Randy Fine about the day before?
Form, you can answer.
Are you assuming that I received the public records request on August 12th?
Yes.
Just so you know, when you make a public records request, there's a delay log in many days before it actually goes out sometimes.
Okay, let's give you the benefit of the doubt and say it's 5 days later. You don't get it until 5 days later. Okay? So 5 days lapsed between the time that you talked to Randy Fine, probably about the Johnson Middle School transgender sex allegation. Okay? And you get a public records request from Ms. Jenkins asking for phone logs between you and Randy Fine. and it's not within your ability to go back and recollect when you might have talked to Randy Fine about official business in the recent past? You can't recall back that far?
You're
Form,
assuming,
you can answer.
you're assuming that I received the email on the 5th, opened it up, and saw it. Many of these emails that come, we don't respond to our emails every day. So to say that I received it on the 5th, or that it was sent to me on the 5th, does not mean that's the day that I actually received it.
Well, how soon would you have to get it in order to be able to remember whether or not you communicated about official business? Would you be able to recall a day later if you did get it the day later?
You're asking hypothetical questions that are just not, I mean, you're at this.
No, but your testimony is that you can't tell if phone logs are public records because you can't recollect what was talked about, okay?
That's it.
We've already established that Ms. Jenkins sent you a public records request one day after conversations with Randy Fine, okay? Maybe you got it 2 or 3 days later, we don't know. Is that such a great time that you can't go back and figure out what you talked to Randy Fine about?
Form, you can answer.
You're assuming that I received it within a specific time range, which I may or may not have.
Okay, how quick would you have had to gotten it to be able to recall what you talked to Randy Fine about?
I don't know.
Okay,
You're asking me.
if I handed you a public records request right now and you had just talked to Randy Fine about something official yesterday, would you be able to recall it or do you have memory problems?
Form, you can answer.
If it was close enough, I would be able to see it on my phone, say for instance, and no. But
Okay.
because I do so many phone calls, there's no way to check.
All right, so if I handed you a public records request right now and I said, I want all your conversations with Randy Fine yesterday about official business, and you're like, oh, hey, yeah, I did talk to Randy Fine about official business yesterday, that's something that you could recollect. Do you agree?
And hypothetically, I'm not going to answer those kind of questions because you're asking me to look at a situation that didn't exist and give you an answer to something like that. That's not fair. I don't know.
Okay, so your testimony today is that you can't tell from looking at your phone logs or your log on your cell phone if your communications were about official business, right? Is that,
It does not state that it's official business. Now, if there was something that I could relate it to and think there, maybe, but it doesn't state that.
so is it your position that the requester of a public record has to prove that it's your communication is about official business first?
If-
Form, you can answer.
If I don't know if it is or is not public record and somebody came forward and provided information that proved that it was public record, then it would be public record.
Okay, could you also rely on your memory about
Form.
whether or not something is public record?
Form, and I think the witness is answering your question. You're getting in a legal debate with the witness about what their position is in the
No, he's
litigation.
not answering the question. I want to
I've
know,
answered the question.
no, how good is your memory? Can you remember what you did on Monday? It's Friday,
Not everything that I did on Monday, no.
okay? If you talked to Randy Fine on Monday, would you be able to recollect that as you sit here today?
I will be honest with you. If you asked me who I talked to that phone on Monday, there's probably a good chance that I wouldn't remember 3/4 of the people that I talked to on Monday.
Okay, what if it was about an allegation regarding a transgender child in the school? Don't you think you would remember that if you talked about that on Monday?
Form, you can answer.
If I talked about that, then sent, this is completely hypothetical right now. I can't, you're asking me to give you a definitive thing based on a scenario that doesn't even exist. You're saying that I received those within a certain time range.
No,
which
what
I
I'm
didn't.
saying is you received the public records request from Ms. Jenkins either on August 12th or shortly thereafter, and you're saying that you can't recall whether or not you talked to Randy Fine on August 11th about official business.
I will tell you to assume that I received it on a specific day or time is not fair in the fact that is when you open up your email and go through them. We good if we take a break so I can pee real quick?
You need a break?
Yeah.
Okay, let's take a break.
Going off the record at 1:08. Going on the record at 1:19.
All right, Mr. Susan, I want to go back and clarify a few things. We were talking about one of Ms. Jenkins' public records requests, specifically the one that was made on June 1st, and how she had made an identical request to Mr. Tobias, and when you learned about his response and all that. And I asked you if John Tobias had ever sent you a copy of what he had provided in response to the public records request that he had received. And I think your answer was,
I wasn't sure.
Okay.
I'd have to go back.
so did he, is that something that you think you could figure out, how he sent that to you?
Probably, yeah.
Okay, do you think he potentially emailed it to you?
I'm not sure. I could find out, I'm sure, but I don't know.
Do you ever mail stuff to Mr. Tobias?
No.
Does Mr. Tobias ever mailed stuff to you through the U.S.
Not that I
Postage?
know of, no.
Okay. And we were talking about the fact that you communicated with Bailey Gallion. Did you give her the case number for the Space Coast sexual assault?
I'm not sure if I did.
All right. All right. So I want to play for you Exhibit 17, which I believe is a school board meeting on September 8th of 22. I don't think this recording is the whole meeting. Let's check this out. Yeah, this is not the whole meeting, so I'm not going to start at the beginning of the meeting, but I'll play a few seconds and see if you recognize it. Okay? Okay, I don't know if you can see it from there.
Public records request was for a record that doesn't exist.
Okay, let me clarify this. Let me stop this for a second. It's not working.
Because the public records request was for.
Can you see from there that it does in fact say school board meeting September 8th of 22? I don't know how to get this thing to go down.
It does.
Okay,
Yes,
all
I
right,
can
so
see
you
that.
agree. And it looks like you're here to the left again in a gray or blue jacket. Is that you here? You're the second person from the left?
Yep.
Okay. All right, I'll play this for you.
Paul, do you wish to clarify anything here, or are you okay? Because the public records request was for a record that doesn't exist. And I put plenty of case law, just like other people who said this to her previously also. And now I sent that to you for review, right?
Yes.
Okay. And so the request was not said that it wasn't that it's on a personal device and it doesn't happen. It's on because the public record doesn't exist, period. So is that the nature of what was sent to you? Sorry, Paul.
I can't remember verbatim what it was. It was a fairly long email. There was a, if they don't hold it in public business, like on a personal device, like if it's not being held by the entity, then it wouldn't exist by the entity for a public records request.
If it doesn't exist on the device, it doesn't exist, and the public doesn't exist, all cannot be a public record. So that's what those court cases and the defined support and everything was. That's all. So, is that what's been clarified or to?
I'm just, I wasn't gonna get specific, but now I'm going to. The response that I received was not that it doesn't exist.
No.
And that's a concern to me. And listen, I did a request of business phone and there were no results, yet public statements were made that these communications had happened. And I have people in this room who say that these communications happen on the private phones. There's people who have under oath made that statement. So it's concerning to me. So Mr. Gibbs, I would love for you to clarify for me if the response I got was that they didn't exist at all. Because that's not what happened. And I wasn't gonna get specific there, but for you to say that, I'm gonna double down. That is not the response I received.
I don't know what public records actually sent to you. I know the email correspondence that was going back and forth with my office. And there was a case law citing to define the record under 119. Let me see if I can find where the statement is. It was in regard to school district-owned devices, call logs on school officials' personal mobile phones would not become public record unless the log itself was prepared in connection with official agency business and intended to perpetuate, communicate, or formalize knowledge of some type based on a 1980 Florida Supreme Court case, which further defined the term record as used under 119 Florida statutes to mean any material prepared in connection with official agency business, which is intended to perpetuate, communicate, or formalize knowledge of some type. And it went on to say they were not aware of a government official's personal phone being a public record, as it's not held by the public. They're not public records unless public agency or public employee makes use of the logs themselves based on Nissen versus Pierce County in Washington from 2015.
So I'm gonna go ahead and read the email I received. Good afternoon, Ms. Jenkins. Mr. Susan has provided a response to your phone log request citing case law that states personal cell phone records do not qualify as public records. That is not saying that they don't exist. That is saying that they are not they are not subject to public records law. And so,
That to Paul, prior to who's supposed to contact the public records department to tell them to hold until he reviewed it. But the fact that they jumped the gun and did that, I can't speak for the public records.
well, it's not jumping the gun when I submitted the request almost a month ago.
No.
Listen, I have a right to say that, not only as a fellow elected official who's been subject to the same public records request, I have the right to say that as a constituent myself. I think it is subverting public records law, and I think that as a board we need to be concerned, because there could be legal ramifications for it.
Ms. Jenkins, I just would like to review the fact that our own attorney just cited case law specific to your request. We just went ahead and found out publicly that I returned the information to Mr. Gibbs so that he could review it, send it over to the public records group. They must have sent an email to you ahead of time. That was not part of the plan. So what you're saying and what you're doing is outside the scope of what our legal counsel is in the process of doing. So I would refer you to him and find out what it is, because that's a proper process for us school board members to take care of.
Absolutely. And Mr. Gibbs, have I met with you about this? Yes. And Mr. Gibbs, do you believe that this case law either supports or goes against this being a public record? Do you believe that it says either way?
I don't think it's super clear. I think there's a lack of clarity in the knowledge. There's no direct on-point case law finding whether or not personal records would be public record on a phone log for a personal device.
Thanks. So I have a right to still be concerned that it is circumventing public records law. Thank you.
We're good.
All right, let me ask you some questions about that.
Paul, do you wish to clarify anything here, or are you okay?
All right. So, we've been talking about what your stance is on this case, and whether or not you think you have to produce phone logs from your personal cell. And what I heard there is that you told Ms. Jenkins and everybody else on the board that the records don't exist, quote, period. But yet you've provided a spreadsheet to Mr. Mora, Exhibit 11, that shows that there were some communications. How do you reconcile the two of those?
Form, you can answer.
I have conversations with people related to school board all the time, specifically the individuals that are in question.
Okay. How did you know on September 8th of 22, which was not even a month after Ms. Jenkins' initial public records request on August 12th of 22, how did you know that no public records existed, period?
Form you can answer.
Because I can't definitively look at it and tell what the pieces are, that it's actually a public record or not, and there was no way to produce them. They weren't already a record.
Okay, so your position is because you can't look at a phone log and know what you talked about with that other person, that they're not public records, period.
Form you can answer.
The definitiveness of the public record is so that when you know that it is a communication related to a school board or other work-related issue, that you turn around and make that a public record. There's no way by looking at those records to tell if you do or you don't. We've been doing this for a while.
Okay, but if there's no way to look at look at your phone logs and tell if you talked about something official or not, why are you saying in this meeting that they don't exist, period?
Form.
How could you even tell if you can't look at the phone logs?
Okay, so first off, this is September 8th, 2022. You're asking me to go back to that time and understand exactly what I'm saying.
Okay, so between August 12th of 22, when Ms. Jenkins made her first public records request, to September 8th of 22, what had you done to determine whether or not your phone logs might have contained official communications?
I reviewed the public records that were on my cell phone.
Okay, what public records were those?
Text messages, then if there's ever a personal something that might be on there, I don't know anything else, just look through it.
Did you look at your call logs?
No, I don't. By the time I make so many phone calls on my thing that there's no way you can tell by the end of the day who I call at the beginning of the day.
Okay.
So there's no opportunity, and I can't even tell if you're asking me to review something that happened 15 months ago that I don't know. I can't tell you definitively.
Okay, but you agree that you can look at your cell phone and see your call log. You don't have to rely on your cell phone company, correct?
That is true.
Okay. So if you got a public records request on August 12th or shortly thereafter, do you agree with me that you could scroll back if you had to a couple days and look to see who you talked to and jog your memory about whether or not it was about official business?
Yes, this earlier. You're asking me to, one, identify call logs on the phone. If that was that case, yes. If you look at my call logs, there are so many calls that are between there that there's no way that by the end of the day that they're on there from the beginning. There's only, I think, 10 or 15 call logs that are actually on there.
Okay.
And then you're asking me to go back and know what I said in those calls. It's pretty tough.
Okay. So as an elected official, it is pretty tough for you to recall what you talked to other elected officials about just in a few days prior to a public records request? Is that what you're telling me?
Anybody.
Form you can answer.
Anybody. It's
Okay.
tough to remember exact conversations wrapped around from days before, and you're assuming that I received it within a certain amount of time, which is probably not the case.
Okay. How did you come forward, though, on September 8th and say that they don't exist, period? How did you know that they don't exist, period?
Form you can answer.
I can't speak to September 8th, 2022. I can just tell you that my call logs don't specifically tell me if I did or didn't make the call. I've been consistent with that through this conversation.
Okay. Well, you don't dispute that you said that on September 8th of 22, do you?
It's in a video.
Okay. All right. And you can't tell me what you did before you made that statement on September 8th to determine whether or not call logs exist that would be responsive.
You're asking me to hypothetically look and try to remember from 15 months ago what I did, and that's different.
I'm not asking you hypothetically. I'm asking you what you did.
Yeah, I can't tell you if I did or I did not do anything before.
So you don't know, as you sit here today, that prior to making this September 8th of 22 statement, what you did or did not do to verify whether or not there was responsive
I
documents.
looked at what was evident on my phone and provided those. Thank you.
But you didn't provide any phone logs, right?
Form you can answer.
Apparently not.
Have you ever provided any phone logs in response to Ms. Jenkins' public records requests
Form.
prior to the lawsuit being filed?
No.
Okay. You do agree that you are subject to public records laws, correct?
Absolutely.
And you do believe that citizens have the right to records that fall under the public records law?
Absolutely.
So as you sit here today, articulate for me, what is your reason about why you think that you don't have to provide phone logs from your personal cell phone?
If they were public records, they would be provided, but they're not public records because I can't tell if they're what the content is on each one of those. I've said that consistently.
Okay. Have you ever made comments that you might file an ethics complaint against Ms. Jenkins because of this case?
There is concerns specifically around sunshine violations and other things, but I'm not an attorney. I wouldn't know those things.
Have you talked to people and told them that you thought Ms. Jenkins might be violating sunshine?
I think I've said it in open meetings that I have concerns around the public records and requests and violating sunshine.
And what are those concerns?
That Ms. Jenkins is using the public records request as a third party to ascertain information that she then uses inside of an agenda item. I said that specifically in a court, in our school board meeting.
Are you aware of whether or not any of her public records requests are pertaining to unresolved items? Meaning items that the board had not already voted on, that were still open for vote? Let me word that a different way. Are any of Ms. Jenkins' public records requests pertaining to items that were still open for discussion by the board?
Form. Excuse me, form.
Say that again?
Yeah. Based on your recollection and our review of the exhibits today, can you identify any of Ms. Jenkins' public records requests that would violate sunshine?
I've had concerns around certain ones because they were brought up at agenda items.
Okay, which ones were those?
Specific to, I think I said it in the school board meeting, John Tobiah, and others that have come up that seem to me that way. But I'm not an attorney, nor do I understand the public sunshine law.
Okay, so your concern is that Ms. Jenkins' requests for communications between you and John Tobiah might violate sunshine.
Mm-hmm.
Is that yes?
Yes.
But you don't have any concerns that your communications with John Tobiah might violate sunshine, do you? You think that's okay under sunshine?
You're saying that I may violate sunshine because I speak to another constitutional officer which has no voting or anything else related to my school board activities?
Right.
I mean, I don't understand what that question is.
Well, do you think that you violated sunshine by talking to John Tobiah about issues that were before the school board?
No.
Okay. So why would Ms. Jenkins' request for those communications violate sunshine?
She sits on the same board. She votes on the same things. John Tobiah does not.
Okay.
Time do you have?
Would Ms. Jenkins' public records request dated August 12th of 22, which is 23-156, requesting, quote, call log from Mr. Susin, both personal and school board issued, call to and from Randy Fine, date June 1st, 22 to present day. Is it your opinion that that would violate sunshine?
I don't know that public records request based on agenda items and stuff like that. But that one hasn't been on something that I look
All right, Ms. Jenkins also made public records request number 23-222, which is reflected in Exhibit 3, and it was made on September 9th of 22. It says, "Good morning, I would like to request all phone calls and text messages to/from/between Susan and Bailey Gallion, June 1st to present." Does that violate Sunshine in any way?
I am not an attorney for Sunshine, and I do not know if it does or it does not.
Okay. What about public records request number 23-173, which is reflected in Exhibit 2 and dated August 19th of 2022, in which she requests, quote, "I'm requesting the call log of all calls made to the FDLE by Mr. Susan," etc. Does that violate Sunshine Law?
If it has anything to do with an agenda item, it would, but I'm not an attorney again.
Okay, as you sit here right now, you can't identify an agenda item that it might have violated?
No, these are just 25 plus or minus public records requests related to different things.
Okay, what about Ms. Jenkins' public records request on November 25th of 22, which has been given public records request number 23-377, and is reflected in Exhibit 4, in which she requests, quote, "all communication, including text, email, and phone logs of calls received and sent to BCSO from Matt, Susan, etc." Does that violate Sunshine Law?
Don't know.
Can you
I'd
identify?
have to go back and look at each one of them based upon what they did when it was. There's concern over some of them, and I'm not sure which ones.
So if I read all of her public records requests as we sit here today, you couldn't tell me exactly in what manner those may or may not violate Sunshine,
I can
correct?
tell you how a public records request may violate, but I can't definitively say that
Okay,
because I'm not an attorney.
but as to Ms. Jenkins' specific public records requests that we've gone over ad nauseum in this deposition, can you identify any way in which specific way in which they might violate Sunshine?
She makes a public records request and then uses it inside of an agenda item for information that violates Sunshine is what my thought is, but I'm not an attorney.
Okay, and can you pinpoint that example to any one of these public records requests that we've been talking about today?
Any which ones of what?
In the public records requests that we've been,
I'm not gonna look through those and sit here and give you the ones or not. There's concerns around the John Tobias ones, and there's concerns around some other ones.
okay,
But I don't definitively know that to be it.
all right. You don't definitively know that to be the case, but yet you've been talking to people about how Ms. Jenkins is violating Sunshine, right? You said
need
it
to
on the
tell me-
dais.
You need to tell me that my conversation's wrapped around, hey, what do you think about this? Talking to people is wrong in some way?
No, what I'm telling you is that you've said several times during school board meetings that you think that Ms. Jenkins is violating Sunshine, but as you sit here today, you can't identify any way in which she might be violating
I would have to
Sunshine.
look at those when you look at when I'm making those statements. It may be during the time that she's making statements that may have been violating that Sunshine.
Okay,
But again, I can't look back and see.
all right. Did you talk to John Tobias about redistricting?
Form.
Yes, there was conversations wrapped around him paying for a portion of the redistricting process, yeah. That's
Okay,
public knowledge.
okay, it's public knowledge. All right, so if it's public knowledge, would a public records request violate Sunshine if something was already public knowledge?
I'm not
Form.
I'm not here to argue a sunshine violation law right now. I'm not an attorney. I'm not here to, I would tell you that there are some concerns wrapped around it, but this is not.
Do you think it is okay for an elected official to use a personal cell phone to circumvent public records laws?
Form. You can answer.
Circumvent public records laws?
Right, well, you've used your personal cell phone in this case, and now you're objecting to turning over the phone logs, something that would have to be turned over if you use your district phone. Do you think it's okay for an elected official to use a personal cell phone to circumvent the public records laws?
Form, you can answer.
Are you asking me if I circumnavigated?
No, I
public
think I'm
records?
asking if you think it's okay to do that.
No, no.
All right, so, anything else?
Yeah.
Okay. So what I'm gonna do, that's all the questions I have today, but I'd like to reserve, since you have not answered yet, in case we need to ask any questions about any defenses that are raised that were not discussed. I'm gonna reserve the right to continue this deposition at another time, but if we've covered it, I'm not going to.
Understood.
Okay. So I have no further questions.
I have just a few questions. Throughout the day-to-day, we've looked at an exhibit of call logs that you testified that you created. Is that correct?
Yes,
Was that production made during the course of this litigation?
yes,
Was that production made with the concession that those are in fact public records?
no,
Before this lawsuit, did you regularly access your call logs through your cell phone provider?
no,
Before this lawsuit, did you ever provide copies of your call logs to the district for any district business?
no.
Just want one moment to look over my notes real quick. I don't have any other questions.
I have one last question. Did you ever say that you were going to file an ethics complaint against Ms. Jenkins for supposedly getting free legal services and violating the gift laws?
Did I ever say I was going to do that?
Yeah.
I may have had conversations wrapped around free legal services or how one would obtain those, but not that I was going to absolutely file a lawsuit and go down that road.
Okay.
I'm not an attorney. It has come up a couple of times. I may have said that if that did violate it, that there should be one, but I have not filed one.
All right. I have nothing further. Things.
Given that we're in suspended form, are
Yeah.
we reading and waiving?
Well, let's put it on the record in case you don't come back. I'm reserving the right to recall you because you guys have not answered the complaint yet, and should you raise an issue that we have not covered today, then I'm going to suspend for now. But if we don't need to come back, let's put your decision to read or waive on the record. What that means is you have the right to read the transcript before it's finalized and note anything that you think was incorrectly typed. You can't clarify or change your answer, but if you think you said the car was red and the court reporter typed that the car was blue, then you could note that. And if you want to do that, she would email you a copy once it's prepared and you would do it from there. Or you can waive that right, trusting that she took it down accurately. It's also being videotaped. I think she probably has a secondary audio backup that she refers to. So most police officers waive, but it's not a plaintiff defense choice. It's your personal choice.
It's your personal choice.
Would you like to read or waive?
Well, I'd like to read it.
Okay.
Is that the same with the video, or does that go public immediately?
No, that's fine.
Going off the record at 1:48.
Okay.